Good morning and welcome to our weekly webcast. If you have questions, please type them in the comments field there. I see we have one question already. And please feel free to ask multiple questions as well if I don't answer your question, or if you have follow-up questions. And I'll stay on this call as long as you want me to, even if it's 8 hours long, or at least until all the questions are done. I feel great. I got a good night's sleep last night. I'm ready to go. Okay, great. So our first question is here. How do you invest in index funds as a European? You can't buy them directly at Vanguard unless you constantly pay fees to your broker for each transaction. Is there a way around this? Okay, that's a great question. You don't have a high price broker to buy index funds in any country. The way to think of an index fund is they're kind of like stocks. Okay, so if you wanted to buy a share of Microsoft, ticker MSFT, or a share of Apple, ticker AAPL, you just enter in the ticker, and you can use a discount broker as well. Now, when it comes to index funds, and I recommend using them instead of mutual funds, because mutual funds are, when it comes to index funds, you only pay 0.5% or lower in fees when you transact versus mutual funds, which can be 3, 4, 5, and 6%. And so all you have to do is enter in the ticker. I'll give you a couple of examples. So when I used to work on Wall Street, whenever the traders would buy or sell technology stocks, they'd call it the Qs, which is the ticker QQQQ. That's four letters. Whenever somebody wanted to buy the oil services index, they would buy ticker OIH. That's the oil services index. And there's many other indexes within oil, like the OSX as well. You can get crude all over the world as well by entering different tickers. Now, when it comes to commodities, you can just type in SLV for silver or gold. And those are ETFs that allow you to buy those respective commodities. There's country ETFs as well. Like Brazil is ticker EWZ. And then there's, I think EWC is Canada. So there's a ticker for basically everything you want to buy when it comes to ETFs. And you should not be paying high transaction fees. If you have a full service broker that's charging you high fees, then I strongly recommend switching and using a low price broker like a Charles Schwab. And there's many other great examples. But the best index funds I think to use are Schwab. As well as Vanguard. Vanguard's probably the best one. And the beautiful thing about index funds is those companies don't buy and sell a lot within their funds. And that's important because if you buy and sell and realize a profit in less than a year, you pay higher taxes than if you'd held that stock for longer periods of time. Great question. If you have any follow-ups on that, please let me know. If you're just joining us, please enter your question here in the comments field. Enter as many questions as you want to, follow-up questions, etc. I'm more than happy to answer every single question that you ask me here. Okay. Next question I've got is, should you buy funds whose holdings are located in the United States, like the S&P 500 funds, in local currency? In this case, Euro or USD. So I wouldn't think of it that way. I would just think of you can buy any stock or any ETF you want on any market using a discount broker. And when you buy it, it'll automatically get converted into foreign funds. So if you're in Europe and you buy the SPY, which people call the SPDR, which is the S&P 500 index fund, then you'll automatically be converted from your currency to American dollars. Great question. And a lot of companies, when you buy their stocks, if they have big exposure to other countries, they hedge that exposure currency-wise as well, so that if currencies fluctuate a lot, it doesn't hurt you as much or help you as much as well. Thank you. Great question. All right, next question I've got here is, how should I, as another hot day here, should I, as a European, invest money that I need in the foreseeable future? Okay, so okay, you're saying currency risk eliminates the need or benefit of U.S. instruments. Okay, so if you need the money within the next couple of years, then I would do money market funds, which basically means bonds in high quality countries or companies. Okay, and so the return on that investment is lower though because it's lower risk. And so what I personally do is if I need money in the next 3, 6, 12 months, whatever, what I do is I buy TIPS, That's TIPS. That's Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. And what that means is if inflation is really high, then what happens is I'll make more money from that. It'll compensate the increase in inflation. And if you live in a country where there's a very volatile currency, I recommend looking into buying government bonds in countries that have different currencies, just to diversify your risk and your portfolio if your currency moves around a lot. So I would recommend, and you can go to finance.yahoo.com. You don't have to spend any money on software, and just do a search on bonds. You can buy American bonds, Brazilian bonds, Canadian bonds, French bonds, any bonds you want. But when you do that, just make sure within Yahoo Finance to click and drill down and make sure that those products are above A rated, meaning AAA rated. And the way that bonds work, ratings wise, is they go AAA is the best, then AA, then A, then triple B, double B. You get the idea. Try and do everything above A. That's just what I recommend. It's just it's a lower risk. So if you need money in the near term, then park it into bonds. Make sure that the credit rating is very high. And the two big credit rating agencies that will rate the bonds for you are S&P and Moody's. And there are others as well, but I feel comfortable with those two investment ratings. Okay, so let me move on here. And that was a great question. So if you have follow-up questions from that, please let me know as well. If you're just joining us, please type your questions here in the message box here. All right. Next question I've got is, the global financial recession seems to be kicking in as the Federal Reserve starts to pulling money off the market globally. Okay, do you agree with the recession is happening soon, and should we keep more cash now? That's a great question. So let me just explain what that means for those that are not too familiar with the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is a person in the United States that's in charge of making the value of money go up or down by changing the interest rates. When the Federal Reserve chairperson raises interest rates, what that means is this. That means that they buy bonds back from the public, and they take that money and they take it out of circulation. And since there's less money in circulation, the price of money goes up. Kind of like if you were to buy an avocado and you went to a store and there was a big shortage in avocados, the price would go up. Now, in Europe and other countries, they don't call it the Federal Reserve chairperson. They usually call it the Bank of X. Like in Canada, they'll call it the Bank of Canada. In Europe, they call it the ECB, or the European Central Bank. And so your question is, do I think that a recession is coming? I don't know, but one thing about is that business and economic cycles are always very similar. Okay, you go from bull market to bear market, and that's usually within 10 years. Okay, it's impossible to call peaks or troughs, and that's why I humbly recommend trying to be a long-term investor and not really focus as much on where we are in the economic cycle. Now, if you need money in the next 3, 6, 12, 24 months for your house, your apartment, or education, then I recommend putting in very low risk asset, like I mentioned earlier in this call, AAA rated government bonds in countries that are unlikely to default. So that's what I'd recommend. I don't know if we're going to recession right now. I don't think of it that way. I think much longer term. And there's a lot of stocks in my watch list I can't wait to buy. And if the market goes into a tailspin, then I'll start buying. And I only buy when everyone else is selling. I know it sounds kind of intuitive. Yeah, no kidding. But just be careful when it comes to bubbles, and don't participate in that much. Like cryptocurrencies. I made a cryptocurrency course, and most cryptocurrencies are a scam. Most cryptocurrencies are a horrible investment, but there's a couple that are great longer term investments. If you need money in the near term, keep it in bonds. Okay, thank you. Okay, if you're just joining us, please ask questions here in the comment field. Okay, let's see here. And by the way, I don't know what country you're all located in, but make sure that your bank is government insured. And if you take a finance course, you can go to the settings tab and you'll find out there if banks are federally insured. And so in the United States, if you have I think it's just over $200,000 in one bank account, the government insures that. Okay, if you have $300,000 to invest, you put the other 100 grand or so in another bank. Okay, so just make sure that you understand if your government insures money, and they usually do, and what amount, and never keep more than that amount in one bank ever. Okay. Okay. And the United States is called FDIC, which is Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. My window. If it's too loud outdoors, just let me know. I'll close the door. It's hot in here though. Okay. It's a loud crow. All right. Let me see here. What's next? Schwab and Vanguard's only for American residents. It's not, because I have a lot of former investors in my hedge fund and my venture capital firm that lived in other countries that just bought and sold. It's really easy to do. Right? You should be able to buy and sell their ETFs. And if I didn't answer that question, then please let me know. But anybody can buy SPY, which is spiders, which is the S&P 500, for example. Anybody can buy Brazil's ETF, which is the EWZ. Thank you. And if I didn't answer that question correctly, please send a follow-up here and ask as many questions as you want. I'm going to stay on this call forever until all questions are answered. I know that we only have 2 or 3 hours allocated, but I'm staying on forever. I feel great today. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Okay. Love from India. Thank you, Siddharth. Appreciate that. All right. Next question is from Grant. Morning, Grant, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. What % of your investments are in cryptocurrencies and which ones? Okay. So I don't give investment advice, but I will tell you what I own. Okay. So when it comes to cryptocurrencies and most technology investments, usually the market leader or the second or third one do well in the long run. So Google in search, obviously. When it comes to mobile phones, it's Android or iOS. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, the ones that I do own a bit of right now are Bitcoin as well as Ethereum. And for those of you that are in currencies, I'm happy to explain cryptocurrencies from scratch. I've got cryptocurrency equipment right here. This is a Bitcoin miner. I do a ton of mining. If you want me to explain what mining means, please let me know. Don't ever pick up things by the cable though. All right. So yeah, I own Ethereum and Bitcoin. Ethereum is not just a cryptocurrency. It's so much more. You know, it's a way to actually have secure contracts on a platform globally, so that in the long run, you don't pay high legal fees or brokerage fees, etc. And if you have follow-ups on cryptocurrencies, please let me know, because this is your time, and I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time and I answer questions that you want me to answer. So, Grant, I own Ethereum, ticker ETH-US for me, and Bitcoin, ticker BTC. Okay, so Haroun has got a question. Hey, Haroun, that's my last name. Haroun's my last name, Haroun. So, hey, Chris, how does an ICO vary from an IPO? Great question. Okay. So an IPO is the initial public offering. Okay. So whenever a company goes public in most major markets, governments make them write these big documents called prospectuses. And this is also called an S1, S-1. And you can go to sec.gov in America and look at the ticker of Facebook, which is FB, and get this document. And other countries have it too. In Canada, it's called CEDAR. Every government and every stock market has their own. And this document here is it's pretty long, right? But it lists all the risks. I talked about it. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Now, an IPO basically means initial public offering when a stock is first listed on the stock market. Okay. An ICO is different. An ICO is the first time that a cryptocurrency trades anywhere. And ICO stands for initial cryptocurrency offering. Okay. And the danger of ICOs, and please be careful with them, please. And in my course called the Complete Cryptocurrency course, I have a 49-step program, a research framework for you to analyze if an ICO is. The problem is that these things don't exist to the same extent that they do for IPOs with cryptocurrencies. So people could be scamming you. People could be scamming you. And a lot of governments hate cryptocurrencies for many reasons, one of which is that many of them are a scam because there aren't the legal frameworks in place to protect you and me as consumers and potential investors. And if you have a follow-up on ICOs or cryptocurrencies or anything, please let me know. And if you're new to cryptocurrencies, please let me know. I'm happy to walk you through the whole process. is I made a 24-hour course, which people are criticizing me was too long, which they're probably right. Okay. Okay, great. Oh, and by the way, I hate being a salesman. If you want, my course, the complete cryptocurrency course, I put up a 6-hour free preview on my YouTube channel. Just search for it or search cryptocurrency course free or something within YouTube. Okay, thanks. My wife always says to me, Chris, I don't get it. If you give away all your stuff, what kind of business are you in? It's true. All right. All right. Next question is from Willem. Good morning, Will. Do you have a favorite podcast to learn something while commuting? I do. My favorite one, actually, I have a couple. So podcasts were released in July of 2005, and I started listening to the Wall Street Journal Tech Briefing and the Wall Street Journal, which are 3 to 5 minute snippets to summarize everything in those aforementioned papers. But my favorite one is released every Monday morning, and it's called This Week in Tech, TWIT. And there's a great guy named Leo Laporte who creates this, and it's just a review of technology trends from the past week. And it's fun technology. Like, what are your thoughts on iOS 12, or do you have the new Nintendo subscription service, that sort of thing. So TWIT is my favorite one by Leo Laporte. But I love podcasts, and I believe that I'm going to get into that market soon. I'm going to create podcasts because I think the operating system of the future is not visual. I think it's virtual, right? So, for example, we all use audio stuff at home. You can use Google's Amazon Audio. You can use Siri. That sort of thing. Alexa, you get the idea. And so the operating system doesn't have to exist. It can be virtual. And it's kind of like that. There's a movie that had a big impact on technology user design here in the Bay Area recently, which is the movie Her, H-E-R, which is really out there. It's about some dude that's got this PDA or personal digital assistant that's voice-based that he kind of uses for everything in his life. He uses it for too much stuff. I'm not going there. But that's a great movie. Another operating system platform movie that had a big impact on how we think in Silicon Valley is Minority Report. I'm going off topic. Let me get back on here. Sorry. So hopefully that answered your question. All right. Next question is somebody wrote down money supply. I don't know what that means. Please ask a question if you can there. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. So another question, Chris, I'm on your courses on Udemy. You're awesome. Greetings from Puerto Rico. Thank you. How are you? Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, Siddharth's got another question here. Again, type your questions here in the messages field. Is a CFA or an MBA important to enter core finance industry or basic knowledge, and is passion enough? Oh, love that. So I don't think that I don't think that you need to have degrees to work in finance. I think the only reason to get an MBA or a CFA is if you want to switch careers and you've tried to network and networking doesn't work for you. So in hindsight, I would not have done my MBA if I could have gotten into the finance, meaning by networking. And so I think that you can switch careers quite easily using networking. Read my book for free. It's a free book. It's 200 pages, a couple hours of YouTube videos in it. Just go to, you can click actually, I don't think it's in the description field yet, but just go to harounventures.com and download my networking book for free. And I promise you it works. It works. Ask and you will receive. Okay. But an MBA is only worth it if you try your best to change careers by networking and it doesn't work. And so for me, when I worked at Accenture in Toronto back in 1994, I wanted to go to Wall Street. And so I remember I called up Morgan Stanley when I was at Accenture, and I said, can I send in my resume? I talked to somebody in HR, and I'd worked 2 years already at Accenture. And she said, no. Well, I mean, she said, it's unlikely you'll get a job here because you don't have a finance background. And that's why I went to business school. Now, I wish I had networked more so I could have saved myself some money. So if you network a lot, yes, you can change careers easily. Now, I think a CFA is better than an MBA if you love finance, because CFA, for those of you who don't know, is the Certified Financial Analyst Program. It's 3 years long. You do it at night, study on your own time. You buy the books from a company called Schweizer, which is the easy way to do it. I think you know what I'm talking about, Siddharth. And then what happens is You write that exam. I think it's every December or May. And there's 3 levels. Level 1 is basically an MBA. That's all it is. It's a repeat of my MBA, right? Because I did level 1. Level 2 is harder. It deals with bonds and options. And level 3 is a little bit easier. Takes 3 years to get, and people do respect it a lot in the finance industry, and so it is a very well respected brand. Thank you. I think passion is and your follow up here is passion enough? I think it is. I think it is, because if you passionately network, you can make that career change. Thank you. If you have a follow up there, let me know. If you have questions, please type them here in the message field. All right. Next question is this. If I buy ETFs instead of index funds, my investment is subject to the volatility of the market. Shouldn't I avoid this as a long-term? No, because I think that when you buy index funds, it's not just a broader index like the S&P 500. You can buy indexes for any subcomponent of markets. Like if you want to just invest in industrial companies, or you want to just invest in a certain country or in a certain sector, like the semiconductor sector. And years ago, I used to buy the SWH, which is the Software Holders Index. So you can get exposure to any index you want. Now, if you want to hedge your exposure, you can also buy indexes that bet that an index is going to go down. Okay, and those are kind of dangerous. And some of them double up and triple up as leverage. And I used that a lot in 2008 when I ran my hedge fund to buy sectors that I think are going to go down a lot. So you can hedge your bets that way. You can also look into options like puts, which is a little bit more risky. And if you have a follow up on that, please let me know. Hey, Cassandra, how are you? Secure contracts, Ethereum. Can you talk more about that? Okay. I'd love to. And again, if you have questions, type them here, please. So about Ethereum. So big cup of coffee. So Ethereum is it's a cryptocurrency. It's like Bitcoin, but better. So Bitcoin was the first notable cryptocurrency that came out in early 2009. And Bitcoin is thought of as digital gold. Okay, and Bitcoin's little brother, so to speak, or little sister, is called Litecoin, which is digital silver, which is used for daily transactions. When it comes to Ethereum, Ethereum is a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. However, Ethereum is faster than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. It's kind of like Yahoo, okay, initially, and Ethereum is like Google. It's better. And when new cryptocurrencies are created, they're created to plug gaps or to fix problems with other cryptocurrencies. And so what Ethereum does is you can buy it. It's called Ether is the name of the currency within that platform. But Ethereum is a broader platform. And what that means is that eventually you can use the Ethereum platform to trade anything you want and to transact in anything you want. And ICOs, meaning when cryptocurrencies first go public, first listed, a lot of them do it on the Ethereum platform. And so the best investments in history have been platforms. Facebook is a platform, LinkedIn is a platform, Apple is a platform, you get the idea, Microsoft, etc. Ethereum is a platform. And Ethereum will allow you to have secure contracts done much cheaper. So if you're buying a house, all those things and all those transaction fees can be done on Ethereum cheaper, right? If you're dealing with lawyers, unfortunately, although I love civil rights lawyers, what happens is you can deal with them on the Ethereum platform cheaper. If you want secure healthcare records, in the United States, they call it HIPAA, which is just some healthcare compliance thing. But if you want to look at secure healthcare records, you can look at it on the Ethereum platform. If you want to vote and have an election that's tamper-free, hopefully, you can do it on the Ethereum platform. So the Ethereum it's not just a cryptocurrency; it's so much more. It basically allows you to have multiple contracts tied to a single platform, as well as purchasing a cryptocurrency, which is called Ether on the Ethereum platform. Cassandra, that's a great question. If you have follow-ups on that, please let me know. If anybody else has any other questions on cryptos, please let me know. This is your time, so let me know what you want me to talk about and drill down and go into more detail on. So please enter in your questions here, and if I haven't answered them, just enter them again, everybody here. Okay, so again, answer your questions here, please. All right, next question I've got is thoughts on the CFA Academy. Okay, I just answered that one. CFA, Certified Financial Analyst. And what you can do, by the way, is when this call is done, within one day, I'll have everything indexed. So you can go to the description field and click on any question, and it'll jump right immediately to it. Okay, so if you missed that question, please just watch the replay. Okay, next question here is entering your questions now, please. Thanks. Hi Chris, I'm a student from India but working in Kazakhstan. Love your courses. Thank you. Okay, you said here that I missed your question on trade wars. I don't know what the exact question was, but I'm really concerned about what's happening with putting up these barriers. I always believe we should build bridges, not walls, and you can read between the lines there. But nobody wins in trade wars, right? For a reason, he wins. And so, God willing, this is just a political bluff, and these trade wars or policies can be lifted. I'm going to be careful to stay out of politics there, although I think my heart's in the right place. If you have a follow-up on that, please let me know. Okay. All right. Haroun has got another question. Hey, man. How can I buy stocks listed on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ from India? Well, here's what you do. So in my course, the Complete Personal Finance course, I've listed the top 5 banks in every country in the world. So once you enter in your country name, you can actually get the top 5 banks. And what you do is call your bank, okay? Call your bank where your money is right now and ask them, do you have a brokerage firm affiliated with your bank? And most banks do. And that's how you can buy and sell stocks. And once you talk to the brokerage firm affiliated with your bank, then you can buy any U.S. stock you want. Per your question, you can buy any stock on the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you. Okay, Grant. Hey, Chris. Grant from Sacramento. Hey, man. Look into Komodo as it is solving the scalability issues Ethereum is having. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So you give me a couple cryptocurrencies to look into. I will. Thank you. So whenever a new cryptocurrency is created, the goal usually of the people making that cryptocurrency, in addition to getting rich, whatever, is to plug a gap or solve a problem that different cryptocurrencies have, right? And it's a massive bubble. Too many cryptocurrencies out there right now. But new cryptocurrencies emerged to solve a problem that previous ones had. And there's more cryptocurrencies now than there are country currencies, real paper currencies. It's a bubble. Okay. So thank you. Okay. Next question I've got is from Carl. And again, if you have questions, please enter them here in the description field, and I'll answer your questions. And when there are no more questions, I'll wrap up the call. So please enter your questions now. I don't see that many more right here. Next question I've got is from Carl. Swiss National Bank has been gobbling up the top tech stocks over the past couple of months. Any thoughts on that? I don't know much about that or anything about that. When it comes to investing in tech stocks or any companies for that matter, I tend to think much longer term. Okay, and so I don't know why they're buying and selling. No idea. Sorry. Okay, so looks like there's no more questions. So if you have questions, please answer them now. I'll give you. So okay. You mentioned here the China-U.S. Trade war. Yeah, it's problematic. There's a lot of saber rattling going on ahead of an upcoming election. Nobody wins when protectionism emerges. I think it's very dangerous. That's all I'll say. I hope it stops. I hope it stops. And it broke my heart to see what happened with NAFTA as a Canadian, but it is what it is. I'm getting political there. Sorry. Okay. So if you have questions, please ask them here. And if you've already asked a question, ask another one. Please type right now your questions. Thanks. All right. Next question I've got is, why is Goldman Sachs the holy grail of banking? Well, it's been around for a long time. And I worked there as well. And one thing I loved about the firm people seem really nice there, and Goldman Sachs, and I'll go on the record saying this: Goldman Sachs does not hire the smartest people. They hire people that get along. And you know what it's like if you work in a culture, in a company where there's a couple of jerks, then the productivity of that team or that company goes down a lot. And so what happens is at Goldman, they have an insane number of interviews to get in there, sometimes 40 or 50 interviews. It's crazy. It's exhausting. And they make sure that the jerk factor is quite low. And that's why I believe that that Goldman has a great brand name. And it was a very secretive culture for ages as well. And secretive, then there's this mystique about it. People want to learn more. And it's like it's like FOMO, fear of missing out. And so for years, Goldman would not advertise, right? Even on the outside of their building, 85 Broad Street in New York when I worked there, as well as One New York Plaza, they did not have the logo of the company on the outside of the building, right? And so it's just, they kind of, just kind of humble side to it as well. They had a good reputation, and they never, I can speak for most people, they didn't really compromise their intent. When I worked at Goldman, during the training program, they, and remember, the smartest people don't work there. So I worked there. During the training program, what they did was they fingerprinted all of us. And then they said, don't do anything that gets you on the cover of the Wall Street Journal, and you have more of a chance of doing harm than good to this firm. Oh, and welcome to Goldman Sachs, by the way. So they said. All kidding aside, they put the fear into you when you start, and that's a good thing. And they always preach at Goldman, be long-term greedy, right? Investments in history and the best investors in history are long-term focused. Always. Otherwise, you get fooled by randomness. So at Goldman, they think very, very long term. But the thing is, though, that I had a lot of friends that left and made way more money at other firms, but the culture in other firms weren't as good at some of those firms, right? So it's, I don't know, Goldman is kind of like McKinsey, a great consulting firm. You make less money than working elsewhere, but if you get to the top, you make a fortune. I left right before I was about to make vice president. I wanted to join a hedge fund. I don't know. I have fond memories of working there, just good people, but it is so hard to make partner. It's so hard. One of their, if you look at my vlog, I actually have, another hot day, not as hot as Sacramento, Grant, but if you look at my vlog, I have a vlog on co-opetition, and I talk about how at Goldman Sachs, what they do is they have two people heading up each a lot of divisions, right? Like this, and then what happens? That's called, and they're co-leads, and eventually one wins. Okay, so it is co-opetition, and that management business model, it's stressful, but it works. It's kind of like the Beatles. The Beatles did all their best work in the 1960s when John Lennon and Paul McCartney were in their 20s. And every song that John or Paul wrote was written by Lennon and McCartney. And there was co-opetition. They competed a lot, right? They butted heads a lot too. I love their music, but I think the reason the Beatles were so amazing was because there was that co-opetition. And if you look at Paul McCartney's music after he left the Beatles, and the same thing with John Lennon, God bless him, he's no longer with us. But if you look at their music, it's not as good, in my humble opinion, as it was in the 60s. But I buy every Paul McCartney album. I just bought his latest one, Egypt Station, because every now and then one or two songs sound Beatlesque, like Eleanor Rigby, etc. Wow, that was long. Okay, sorry for rambling there. If you have questions, please answer them here. And when I see no more questions, I'll end the call. Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Sorry, wow, a bunch just came in. Thank you. This is great. Okay, good. I want to keep doing this. Okay, next question is, which ETF would you suggest to track the global markets? America, EFA, emerging markets, etc. EFA is other Europe and other markets overseas outside of America. I don't have a particular favorite, but I would just buy a basket, meaning a diversified portfolio of different ETFs from different countries. And never, ever, in my humble opinion, management and risk diversification, try to never have more than 5% of your liquid net worth, meaning how much money you have outside your house. Try to never have more than 5% in any one particular investment. Okay, so if you're going to invest globally, just to diversify and lower your risk, make sure you don't put more than 5% in any one stock or ETF or investment type. And I think the same thing with cryptocurrencies. I recommend that people put no more than 5% of their net worth in cryptocurrencies, in percent in any particular cryptocurrency. So that means they can buy 5 cryptocurrencies or that sort of thing. So I don't have any particular preference for company or country investments, but you can look at the array of ETFs that exist by going to Vanguard's website or Schwab or BlackRock. And there's a lot of great ETF companies. And the reason you buy ETFs, of course, is because the transaction fee is much lower because mutual funds are a complete ripoff. Okay. And 90%, by the way, 90% of people that work at mutual funds, 90% of mutual funds underperform indexes. And those people all have, high price degrees, whatever. Buy index funds are better. Okay. Next question. Is there a possibility that Trump, political. All right, let's do this. Is there a possibility that Trump is initiating a trade war and tax penalty against China in an attempt to orchestrate a China RMB, which is the currency in China, RMB, breakdown and causing a Chinese meltdown? I don't think, look, I don't know what Trump's thinking, or any politician for that matter. But actually, I do kind of know what he's thinking. So, and look, I did not vote for him. I did not vote Democrat. I'm different every now and then. I'm Republican one year, Democrat next year, whatever the policies are. Okay. So every politician is focused on one thing, which is getting reelected. Okay. So everything that certain politicians do that you might think is kind of a bizarre thing to do is probably because that politician wants to get reelected. Okay. And so if a politician is trying to appeal to voters that are protectionist, then they'll probably start putting up walls, okay, trade barriers, that sort of thing. I believe in building bridges and not walls. And so in terms of what's going on with China, I'll criticize, Trump's policies a lot, but one thing I'll say about him is nobody could get a deal done better than him. He was a tough negotiator. A lot of his hotels a lot of his residences that he built, or buildings he built in New York City, he actually didn't put up any money himself. He had the city of New York put up the money. And so he's a very, very tough negotiator. And I hope it's just a bluff and that eventually everyone can get along and these tariffs are lifted. That's my humble opinion, delicate. And if I didn't answer that, please let me know. But I don't think he's trying to hurt the renminbi. I don't think America is trying to hurt China because we're so dependent on each other, right? Like, for example, in 2008, when the whole world fell off a cliff, a lot of the mortgages in America of our houses were owned by the Chinese, right? The Chinese invest a lot in America, and America really has dependence on China because of a lot of the great stuff that we consume is made there. And to do now, their long-term focus is to make their country more internally dependent. Okay, so they're growing their own economy internally and encouraging people to buy and sell stuff from each other instead of import-export. So that's from their perspective. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But no, I don't think the U.S. is trying to destroy the renminbi. And China has a ridiculous amount of currency reserves anyway. They can control their currency if they wanted to. Okay, they have less debt than I shouldn't say we. I should say America does. Okay, I'm trying to be global here. Okay, great. If you have any follow-up questions on that, please let me know. All right, so God willing, this trade war stops. Okay, next question is, hi, Chris, what are your thoughts on behavioral finance? How not to overreact to certain things? And I love that question. So there's a brilliant man that that just won a Nobel Prize, who runs a fund around the corner from me here. And one of my best is the top portfolio manager there that I went to high school with, and they created the whole behavioral finance model. And basically, what behavioral finance is trying to buy and sell stocks based on the behavior of the management team, and it's brilliant. Okay, so and by the way, the name of that firm is Fuller and Taylor. Okay, so Fuller got this award, and I was buying time until I could remember that. To be honest, Fuller and Taylor. So look them up. They were University of Chicago professors. They started a fund out here on the corner. They buy and sell stocks based on the behavior of managers. And the bottom line is this: when somebody that works at a big company is buying their own stock, that's when they buy. When somebody at a big company is selling their own stock outside of a 10b5 program, which means they sell a little bit automatically every month. If somebody starts selling a big chunk of their stock and they work at a company, or they're a founder of a company, then that behavioral finance firm sells that stock. Okay. And I remember, and I look at this a lot, actually, teams before investing in any company, and I always analyze, are they buying and selling? What does that mean? And you can backdate it and backtest it as well. And I'll give you an example. So years ago, I was a big investor at one of the funds I managed in Activision. Ticker was ATVI. And there's a brilliant man who founded that company in Activision named Bobby Kotick, right? And Bobby Kotick, funny guy, nice guy, smart guy. Whenever he sold stock, right after the stock, he was basically forecasting maybe something bad was going to happen or less good, and the stock would go down. And whenever he bought stock, I would back up the truck because it was an indication that the stock was going to go up. So behavioral finance is a good thing to model and pay attention to. Always watch when people are buying and selling stuff. Okay, their own stock, that is. Okay. If you have questions, please answer them here. And you have a follow-up. How do you not overreact? Okay, so the best investors I've ever worked for, and I've worked for a lot of billionaires, the best investors I've worked for are very unemotional. Okay, it's a very good trait to have. You know, they don't get too happy hiving in the office, but they don't get upset when things don't go well. They're unemotional, and you know, people are creatures of emotion, not logic. And if you can turn off your emotions when you're investing, you can do much better in the long run, because what happens is it's so ridiculous. Warren Buffett said that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So the best investors, the best business are not too emotional, right? And a lot of politicians too, you'll notice a lot of them are kind of even keel. Right, the ones that have made it, you know, into their 70s, whatever, and are still in politics. You don't ever see them getting really mad or swearing, cursing, that sort of thing. And so I think that in politics and in business and in finance especially, if you're unemotional about business, then you'll do much better. Okay. All right. Next question I've got here is, would I hold a portfolio with only bond funds and ETFs? Oof. Did a lot of research and I could not find good investments, good individual stocks to buy. Okay. Then yes, I would hold a portfolio with mainly those ETFs, bonds and stock market ETFs. But I do my own research first. But I think everybody should own a certain amount of ETFs in their portfolio and hold it for long term. Never sell an ETF or a stock in less than a year unless it's hit your target price. Because if you sell it in less than a year, in most countries, pardon me, in most countries, you're going to pay much higher taxes because governments encourage you to think longer term. Okay, please ask your questions here in the comment field, and I'll keep answering until there's no more questions. Okay, there's a question here from Carl. Carl says, what the state did to Japan in the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure what the question is there, but I used to focus on Japanese equities when I worked at Goldman, actually, back in the 90s. And Japan was this economic miracle, post World War II in the 80s, Nikkei, which is their index, went to a ridiculously high level, of which it's not nearly that high right now, or it took years to make that back. But Japan was a real economic miracle after World War II. And they saw most of their growth in the 80s and 90s. And then they've been in this prolonged economic recession. And there's a lot of issues in Japan too. Like I think the population growth is actually slightly negative now, right? But it's an amazing economy, an amazing country. I mean, think about it. They have no natural resources. That little country accomplished so much. And I want to mention one thing that's fascinating about Japan. Everybody will find this interesting. So we all know who Michael Porter is. He's a great Harvard Business School professor who came up with the 5 forces model. Now, in 2001, he wrote this book called Can Japan Compete? And it was fascinating. And what happened was, and he wrote about this, and there's implications in business big time, but after World War II, and the Japanese economy was in awful condition, obviously, and create incentive programs to revitalize the economy in Japan. So that the Japanese government post-World War II created incentive programs for every sector in the economy, every single sector, except for 2 sectors. One of those sectors was autos, and the other one was consumer electronics. Okay. And it's amazing because the most successful Japanese companies, and the only ones I know of that are like unbelievable, are in the autos and consumer electronics sector. Okay. Video games, consumer electronics as well. It goes to show that government intervention and government subsidies is not always a good thing. Look what happened with clean tech. Look in Spain and Germany, here in California where I live, there are these massive subsidies for solar. And that market has not done as well, partially because the subsidies were so high. Right? It's a little bit off topic there, but the bottom line is that, it's kind of like a rich kid who gets a lot of money from their parents. They might be a little bit more lazy to work hard and nature overtake nurture. Okay, so anyway, that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Japan. And if you have any other questions, please let me know. My kids are excited about this new Nintendo Switch streaming service. I looked at it last night. There's like hardly any good games there. Anyway, sorry. But Nintendo is so brilliant at repurposing content, taking old content from other old consoles and repurposing it. Off topic, sorry. And by the way, if you're interested in Nintendo, I created I think it was a 20-minute vlog on Nintendo. You can watch it if you want. And I explain why Nintendo has existed and is still in business after 128 years. Yes, Nintendo is 128 years old. They keep reinventing themselves. They're the oldest tech company that's still running that I know of. Okay, so anyway, check out that vlog if you're interested. I go into a lot of detail on when I met Bill Gates and when I talked about Nintendo with Bill Gates and all that stuff. Okay. And if anybody's curious about how I met Bill Gates and all that stuff, just ask questions here. Okay. If you have questions, please ask them here in the comment field. Let me go on here. Grant's got a question. Are you a full-time consultant? And what exactly do you do for a living? So I'm not a consultant. I won't do it. I don't advise big companies. I just, I help my students. I love what I do. And I actually get a little bit depressed. It's just who I am. It's my genetic DNA makeup. I get a little bit depressed if I don't help somebody every day. And it's not about money. It's about making the world a better place and helping people. And I humbly believe that education can solve every problem in the world. And I gave a TEDx talk on that. Go to my YouTube channel, search for it if you want this on how we can fix the whole world with education. And if you want to know my thoughts on Malala and such a beautiful person she is and what she's done for society, I'm happy to talk about that in more detail. But October 9th of 2012, when she was shot by the Taliban for demanding equal rights for women and all for education, was, I think, one of the most important days in the past 100 years. And I think one day it's going to become a global holiday. Because I think it's the world. And Malala said, one child, one teacher can change the world. And let us put down our guns and our weapons and just fight with our pens and books. And so I'm kind of shivering just thinking about that because I'm so passionate about it. And I really believe that teaching can change the world. And now look at us. This is a scalable platform. I would never been able to get questions from you, and you'd never be able to hear answers from me if technology wasn't so cheap. And it's all because of Amazon Web Services. A little bit off topic. So what do? Well, I teach online. I create a vlog every single day. And I promised all of my students, you can check out my vlog, that I would vlog every day for the next 10 years without exception. I'm on day 52 now. And if there are topics you want me to talk about in my vlog, just let me know. I'll create them for you. You're the customer, you're the student, and the customer is always right. So that's what I do with my time. I help students. It's not about money. It's not about money. It's about making the world a better place. It's just what I enjoy doing. A keynote speech. Like I'm going down to Brazil next week to give a speech to 5,000 people. That was me showing off. No, just kidding. Giving a speech. I'm writing it right now. And actually, you've all helped me with it because 2 days ago on day 50 for my vlog, I asked all of you to let me know in the description field in that vlog, what are the problems with education and how would you fix it? And my speeches can be based on what my customers, my friends, my students tell me. Okay. So anyway, that's what I do every day is I just help. And yes, I am creating more courses, ones I'm passionate about, ones I like a lot. I made a cryptocurrency course, which was 24 hours. I poured my heart into that one. I poured everything I got into it. I don't think I'll ever make a course that long again. My courses will be a bit shorter now, as people have complained, actually. It's too long. So my next course is on business plans. And my goal with my course coming out, I think I'll get it out in October or November. My goal with this business plan course is to help you decide if you should quit the company you're working at to start. It's going to be a really cool Excel-based template, and you're going to be able to step through the whole process. It'll be fun as well. It'll help you decide if you should quit your job and start that company. And I believe that all of you, everybody on this webcast, all of us, we were not meant to work for somebody else our whole lives. Okay. We were meant to be self-employed, and I'm going to swear right now, and I never swear, but I'm going to. The worst thing that can possibly happen to us is that we spend the rest of our lives being someone else's bitch. Okay. Start your own company. Start today, and if I can help you start your company, then I feel good that I've helped make the world a better place. And so that's how I spend my time. Making courses for you. Just helping out with my daily vlogs. And my daily vlogs are, I've had people have criticized me. Like, what are you doing? Why don't you spend more time making courses? You'll make way more money. It's not about the money. And the day it becomes about the money is the day I stop doing this. So thank you for the question. And again, if you have questions, please enter them here. I'll answer all questions until there's no more questions, even if that means me speaking forever on this call. Okay. A company is only as good as its customer service, right? And that's why Amazon has done well. And you're my customer. I'm trying to provide a level of service here. Whew, I talk a lot. Sorry about that long answer. Okay, next question. Rajendra, another question. You guys, great questions. Thank you. There's no middleman or institution in cryptocurrency, and so backing by gold or governments. So isn't it too risky for investments? Great question. Because there's no government regulation and protection, I think that 95% of cryptocurrencies are going to go to zero. They're bad investments, but I think that a handful will do exceptionally well longer term. Now, whenever you invest in something, the reason it goes up a lot, and this is generic, the reason it goes up a lot is because there's a scarcity of it. There's a limited quantity, okay? And when I was a kid, I collected comic books and baseball cards in the 80s. And I loved it because they went up in price. That was how I started investing. Then in the 90s, they all went down in price because the baseball card companies and the comic book companies made too many of them. They're worth nothing. Supply went up a lot. And so my grandfather, God bless him, my late great grandfather, he used to always say, Chrissy, buy land. They're not making it anymore. And that's why I love commodities too. There's a scarcity factor to it. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, the ones where there's a scarcity factor are good investments. Not all of them, but some. So Bitcoin will never, ever, ever have more than 21 million Bitcoins. There will never be more than 21 million. okay, ever. So there's a limited supply. That's a great thing. So anyway, that's why I think that that some cryptocurrencies are great investments. And I'm happy to talk about some particular ones as well if you want. But if you do invest in cryptocurrencies, don't have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in cryptocurrencies, and don't have more than 1% of that 5 in individual cryptos, meaning you can own 5 cryptos or less. Okay, it's just too risky. Okay, and a lot of governments hate cryptocurrencies, not just because there are no lawyers creating these disclosure documents for you, or at least not big ones like this. But a lot of governments hate cryptocurrency because they feel threatened by them. And I humbly believe that that cryptocurrencies, for many countries, are the biggest threat to national security. And I say that because what governments do is when governments, like we were talking about the Federal Reserve earlier, when governments increase or decrease interest rates, what they do is this. Okay, they issue bonds or buy back bonds. Okay, so if a government, if you own bonds and a government buys a lot of your bonds back, right, from you, okay, you have more. You get money in return, and so there's more money out there. And since there's more money out there, then the demand for money goes down, just like any product you buy in a store. Okay, like avocados. Right? If there's lots of avocados, they're cheap. If there's not enough because there's some sort of shortage, they're expensive. And so what happens is this: change their interest rate, they'll buy bonds back from you and from big banks and other firms. Okay, and when they buy those bonds back, what happens is more money is in the money supply out there, and so interest rates go down, the currency value goes down. Okay, now if they do the opposite, if they sell bonds to you, okay, you buy the bonds because they're nice interest rate, whatever, good investment for you. You get the bond, and I, the government, get that money, and I take that money, and it's out of circulation. Okay, so what happens is there's less money, so that's okay. Now, why do governments issue bonds? And this all comes down to cryptos and why governments feel threatened by cryptos. Why do governments issue bonds? They issue bonds because the amount of money that governments collect through taxes is not enough to pay for stuff, right? So what they do is governments issue bonds. Let's say a government wanted to build a bridge, or God forbid, a wall, or to fund a war. What happens is governments will do it through issuing bonds. Okay, you'll give the government money, okay, and then the government will give you a bond. Okay, and that's how they change the value of their currency. And if you look back in World War II, and I teach about this in my financial analyst course and personal finance courses, but if you look back to World War II, you'll see that governments financed World War II by issuing bonds. And it was a very patriotic thing at the time to buy them, right? So if you take that power away from the governments, see where we own, this is extreme, but we decide to sell all our currency and put 95% of our net worth in cryptocurrencies. That will massively decrease the demand for paper currencies, and governments will not be able to raise as much money to build bridges or other terrible things like finance war. And so I think that cryptocurrencies are the biggest threat to national security for a lot of countries. Okay, that was a long answer. I'll try and keep them shorter. Okay, again, if you have questions, please ask them here in the comment field here. Faisal, how are you? Hi, Chris. Glad I managed to call in live. I have a question. How do you evaluate or score a private company that I'm considering buying? Okay. All right. So in this, it's great. So in my cryptocurrency course, I put together a 49-step program, okay, on 49 things to research before investing in a crypto. You can apply that as well to private companies. The most important thing that you analyze, number one, is the management team. Okay. Ideas is spend most of your time when you're looking at investing in any company, a private company, public company, whatever. Spend most of your time analyzing the management team. Okay. And business schools, I don't know why business schools don't teach that. I mean, we should, day one of an MBA program should be analyzing management teams. They don't teach that stuff. Analyze the management team, because when you're investing in a company, you're investing in people. And look at their track record. Have they started and sold companies successfully in the past? Yes. Then they're probably right? Started companies in the past, but they have an amazing board of advisors of people that are brilliant investors, like Peter Thiel did with Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook. He was on the board, and Peter Thiel, by the way, he was the first investor in Facebook, but he founded PayPal along with Elon Musk. So if you have an amazing board as part of that prosthetic extension of the management team, that's a great thing. That management team is great. Okay, so analyze a management team closely first. Okay, and don't bother doing research off full screen investments. Now, to follow up, to answer the next part of your question, after you analyze the management team, then look at the total addressable market, the TAM. Never invest in a company that is participating in a small market. And there's a great venture capital firm here called Kleiner Perkins, which was one of the first investors in Google, Amazon, et cetera. They're Genentech, which was ticker DNA, a lot of great companies. And I know a bunch of the guys that are partners at Kleiner. I had one of them guest lecture in my class recently, went to universities that night, and he told me that Kleiner will never invest in a company if the size of the total addressable market is not over $20 billion. Why? Because most private investments go to zero. Almost all of them do. But the one that hits it out of the park and does exceptionally well, if it does well, you want to capture part of a big market. And so if a company is participating and is in an industry or market with, say, a $20 billion valuation, and the company gets 5% share in dollars in revenue. Okay, I get this all the time. Scam likely. Isn't that terrible? Frustrated. I can put this on the phone. Sorry. I've stopped you. I turned off my message box because I only get junk messages. And I went to donotcall.gov. Doesn't work to take your number off. Anyway, that was a pretty long-winded answer with the unnecessary cell phone edition. Okay, that's UCA, unnecessary cell phone edition. Just coined that. All right, so next question here. And again, if you have, how do you raise awareness about health in the country that is not into health and wellness? That's a great question. So what usually happens is governments will create programs to encourage health. And so in Canada, there's a lot of government programs like that because in Canada, there's socialized medicine. The government pays for your healthcare. And so little things like when I used to ride the bus or train or subway when I was a kid, and the GO train, the Government of Ontario train, I'd see posters everywhere of like this, so that anyway, you don't get other people sick. Government incentive program in the United States in the 80s and 90s, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger was the advisor to Bush Senior, right? And so that's what governments do. They create awareness that way through various programs. That's basically it. And if I can help out more with that, please let me know. But I think the best way is for people to invest in stop diseases, that sort of thing. That's the best way. And right in my backyard here, around the corner by the airport in San Francisco, you've got the top biotech companies in the world. I want to talk about HIV. So I have when I used to teach in classes at San Francisco State, I love my students at State. They're awesome. My students would always have to present on something they're passionate about, something that's interests them. And they would light up when they presented too. And one of my students at San Francisco State was HIV positive. Any company that has kind of found a cure. And I was like, of course you can. And so when he presented on it, he presented on a company called Gilead. GILD was the ticker. They're here in San Francisco. And there's so many great startups now in San Francisco that are focused on curing cancer and extending life. And I believe that some people on this webcast say we'll live to 150 years old. Okay. There's a lot of money going into the sector. But when he was presenting about HIV, what he said was this. He said that Gilead created this drug that are, and what this drug does is it allows you to live your full life as long as anybody else minus 1 year with very little side effects. It's an amazing drug. So instead of this guy making it to 150, he'll make it to 149, right? And so when it comes to healthcare, I think that a healthy startup community can really help. And there will be a cure for cancer within our lifetime, okay? Just like how polio is no longer an issue anymore. I mean, there's which is amazing. And God bless Bill Gates and Melinda Gates and the Gates Foundation for making the world a better place. And they're really big proponents of education as well, which I think can change the world. And if you even look at, speaking of Gilead and HIV, if you look at mother to child HIV incidents in Cuba, Cuba was the first country in the world back in 2015 to eliminate HIV entirely from mother to child. You can tell I'm a positive person. Sometimes, the glass I think is not half full; it's all the way full. I'm thirsty now, but people are so negative, and I hate it. Right? I don't watch the news anymore, and it's so interesting. And please watch my vlog from last night. It basically explains why you are 26 years younger than you think. And I list 16 things that are positive about the world. And what I hate about the media and the news in general is that the media, that's because it has to be controversial for it to sell. And that's why I love vloggers in general, because vloggers are positive people compared to the media. Right. And it's a big contrast. And I look at my kids, it's so interesting. My kids have more positive attitudes than my generation did. And I think partially it's because there's no limits with technology. Anybody can start a company now in any country. The barriers to entry are zero. You don't have to be in America. You don't have to be in Canada. Anywhere. We watch the news less often than my parents did. Because we'll use social media. And if there's less news on the TV in the background when kids are younger and they hear less about people saying, oh, there's a big outbreak of this virus or war, whatever, and all that negative stuff, and the world's going to hell in a handbasket, then they're going to be more positive people. And so anyway, I always look for the positive in everything. And even for me, when I was fired once years ago, and I remember after it happened, I remember I was saying, what? And I'm not going to get all religious on you, whatever, but I look back in hindsight now, when I was fired, and it was such a blessing. And if you have not been fired yet, if it happens, I want you to look at it as a positive, because it basically guides you down a different path to focus on what you're more passionate about in life. And that's what I did. And so I'm so grateful that happened. And, I tend to look for the positive in everything. There is a silver lining in almost everything. Okay, almost everything. There's stuff happen. Anyway, watch my vlog from last night if you want. And if you want me to spend less time making vlogs and more time making courses, which would make me more money, but I don't care, whatever, just let me know. Off topic, so sorry. Okay, and by the way, so I'm presenting next week in Brazil on the future of education. Watch my vlog on that from last night and from 2 nights ago. And enter in the comments field what you think the problems are with education and how you fix it. Okay, you're my customers, you're my students, and I want to echo your the speech, Sarah. I can't wait. I'm going to go to Rio too and see Christ the Redeemer, that statue. I can't wait. Okay, next one I've got here is so Radina. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer to your question. And if you have questions, please ask them here. I'm going to go forever until we're done. I don't care if it's all night long. Okay. All right. Now I've got that Lionel Richie song in my head all night long. Okay. Hi, Chris. How can I, Robin? Hi, Robin. How can I decide whether it is good to give a percentage of my own company away to somebody to our growth? I offered him some money, but he declined. Okay. So when you get investors in your company to buy equity, meaning buy a part of your company, be really careful, because This can't be undone. It's worse than a bad marriage, because a bad marriage, ends in divorce, unfortunately. But and you could amicably, divide assets and that's it. But you can't get somebody off your board, meaning if somebody invested, and usually people invest in your company, invest in your part of your company, and they can bully you. So I want you to be careful when you're looking for investors. When you meet with them, you're interviewing them as well, and make sure that they don't come across as scumbags, and go with your gut. And I can't explain it, but you know what I mean. Remember that person you met earlier in life that was a real jerk, and you, in hindsight, you said, "God, I had a bad feeling about that person." Use that process, please. But when it comes to raising money, I would go after worth investors in the networking process. Go to my website, harounventures.com, and download my networking book for free. It's 200 pages, and it'll teach you how to get a meeting with anybody, okay, and how to raise money as well. And I want you to find people that have something in common with you, okay, and meet with them, and you'll be more likable and whatever. You'll have more in common with them. They'll want to help you. People want to help you. All you got to do is ask. Don't get a loan, okay, for your company ever. Don't ever get a bank loan, because bankers are chicken. They're chicken. And what happens is, if with your loan and you can't pay it back, the banks will come and take your house. Okay, it happened to my neighbor growing up. It was tragic. The government, actually, the sheriff in Mississauga, Ontario, changed the lock on the door. Don't get a bank loan. And also register your company name, please, as a limited liability company or some other framework that will protect you, and seek a lawyer first, please. Okay. But if you use my networking book tips, I promise you'll find investors. Okay. Don't go after big companies or venture capital firms to invest either. Okay. Initially. And so many people have to decide if they're going to invest versus a rich person or a wealthy person that you find, okay, that sales cycle is low. Okay. They just decide yes or no. And by the way, for any of you that work in sales, which means most people will, or most people do and will in their lives, an entrepreneur is a salesperson. I want you to watch a vlog that I created. And the vlog I created tells you how to get a meeting with any CEO on the planet. Okay. And always go to the decision maker. Don't waste time talking to other people. So the way to, okay, I'll explain really quickly, and you can watch the rest of that vlog if you want, but the way to get a meeting with any CEO on the planet is this. It's so easy. You ready? All you got to do is go to the annual shareholder meeting, even if you don't own shares, okay? Anybody can go to these things. And I used to go to them all the time. I would meet with CEOs and CFOs, and the beautiful thing about going to shareholder meetings is not many people go usually. And they're usually, older people that don't really care, whatever, and no one's paying attention, and there's bad coffee there. There is bad coffee. And then what happened at the annual meeting at their hotel or the headquarters, whatever, go up to the CEO and talk to her or him. Talk to them. Why? Because you are going to be the one ending the conversation, not them, because their board members are in the audience or around. Other employees that work for them are around, and they want to set a good example talking to this person who might be a shareholder. And then what I do is my goal of that meeting is to get a follow-up meeting. Okay. And usually what I do is I say, great, do you mind if and they'll usually say, yes, just email my assistant here. And just do it that way, man. That's how you get customers. That's how you get a job. That's how you change the world. You meet with people that nobody else thinks they can meet with. Like Steve Jobs. Like, do a search in Google or YouTube on Steve Jobs ASK. And when he was a kid, he called up Bill Hewlett from Hewlett Packard, and he got a meeting with Bill Hewlett, and Bill Hewlett gave him a job. It works. And the way to ask is over LinkedIn. Why? Because nobody responds to emails. Everybody responds to LinkedIn messages. You know what I mean? Okay. So anyway, to learn how to do it using LinkedIn, just read my book. It's really easy, whatever. It's free. It's a free book. So anyway, oh, and by the way, years later, in order to pay that debt of gratitude forward, what Steve Jobs did was this. This other kid approached him and asked for mentoring. And that guy's name was Mark Benioff, who now runs Salesforce.com, which is the largest employer here in San Francisco. anyway, that's what I recommend in order, in terms of getting meetings with people, with CEOs, that sort of thing. All right, and it's easier to, in my video, I don't know if I should have done this, but in that video that I put out on YouTube, the vlog on how to get a meeting with a CEO, I put in a little clip from The Wedding Crashers. Owen Wilson, great movie. And I basically said it's easier to get into an annual meeting than it is to crash an annual meeting than it is to crash a wedding. Sorry. Next question. And again, if you have questions, please enter them here. Thank you. And when there's no more questions, I'll stop the webcast. I lost my place. Please don't log off. Stay with me. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. Can you set up a savings plan with ETFs and add monthly savings without losing out on trading costs? So every brokerage firm can help you out with this. Okay, and every country has a different savings plan. So government country has a certain amount of your salary every year tax-free. Okay, and what that means, let's say you make $100 a year. If they say you can take $10 a year and invest it in a fund tax-free, then what happens is this: instead of you being taxed on $100 for your income, you're only taxed on that of $90 worth. Okay, and you take that $10 and you put it into a retirement savings program. In the United States, the retirement savings program is called 401k. In Canada, it's called RRSP. So know who your is, call your bank and ask them what brokerage firm they deal with. Then when you talk to your broker, what you do is this: you ask your broker to automatically deduct from your paycheck and put it into certain ETFs or certain funds or certain stocks every single month. So it's out of sight, out of mind. Okay. It's like when you go to the grocery store, don't buy candy. Just don't do that, right? Because anyway, out of sight, out of mind. And almost all companies that are big, meaning companies that have over 100 employees, will match a lot of our savings program. Okay. So if you put $10 in, a lot of big companies will say, hey, I'll match. I'll give you $10 as well. Right? Why? Because they want to be nice. They want to retain employees, and because they probably get a tax incentive to do that anyway. Okay. And so what happens is big companies will deduct from your paycheck every month if you want and put it into your retirement savings program. Please max out your retirement savings program every year. Please, 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 please. It's free money. It's free money. All right. All right. Next question is this. All right. Please ask your questions here. Okay. If you never have more than 5% of your assets in any one investment, wouldn't you end up paying hefty fees for each transaction? Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, great question. No, because you're longer term focused, right? And so when Warren Buffett buys a stock, he buys a stock with the intention of thinking that the stock market might be closed for 10 years. So he's a stockholder. He is long-term focused, and he's a great investor because of that. Okay. And so I never noticed a stock with a higher degree of probability. Okay. So just think longer term, and no, don't worry about transaction fees if you're going to be a long-term investor. Okay. All right. And if you have more questions, please type them in here. When I see no more questions, I'll stop. We got all day here if you want. Okay. If you said, sorry, I'm going to getting hungry. Sorry. And by the way, I call my tail and a bunch of other stuff. I show you how to make it on a couple days ago in a vlog. You can watch that. I made a mess in my kitchen, but as long as I can help people with my humble thoughts. Okay. Next question is this. If you said unemotional when you buy and sell stocks, how do you take emotional intelligence into account? I believe that most senior managers have a high EQ score. Okay. Okay. That's a great question. So IQ is our intelligence. Okay? It's people. Okay, I think the ones that are most passionate about what they do are the most successful ones. But EQ measures how you can read people and how you deal with people as well. And the reason that most senior executives have high EQs, to your point, is because what is a senior executive? What is a CEO? What is a founder? What is a successful person? They have one thing in common. They're great salespeople, and they can read people, right? They go with their gut, and they know how to motivate people. And so that's why a lot of senior people, have high EQs. And the way that you can tell if someone has an EQ, unfortunately, you can't quantify it. You got to go with your gut. Meet with the management team, or watch the management team on television being interviewed. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, anybody can get access to any CEO on the planet. Okay, and anyway, so that EQ. Great question though. Carl, so sorry, I don't understand what that means. My past two questions are YouTube broke into two. So I please retype your question, Carl. So sorry, because I can't scroll up, or I'll lose my place. Thanks. Okay, next question is this: London or New York as the best capital for finance? Wow, that's tough. That's tough. I was in London recently, and I got to go to the Winston Churchill War Room underground. Like, it in great shape, and it stayed intact. So check it out if you go there. That was me buying time while I think of the answer. Okay, so I think that London is more international than New York is. Okay, so when I think of the New York financial community, I think of it being a little bit more insulated, a little bit more U.S. centric, right? And the United States is 1/3 of the global economy. Okay, so America's gross domestic product is about 1/3 of the global economy right now. Okay, it is a lot more focused first as their market. Now in London, it's a little bit different. London has always been very internationally focused. Always, it's embedded in the DNA subfabric of England. And when I lived in Canada, we were part of the Commonwealth, right? We still have the Queen on our money, right? And by the way, watch that show, The Crown, on Netflix. It's amazing, and the soundtrack is great too by Hans Zimmer. So I think London is always going to be more international in finance than New York will be. It's a great question. Thank you. Next question is this, Carl. Hey, Carl. Thanks for rephrasing. Appreciate it. Let me rephrase. Will China be the next Japan, as Japan tried to save the yen depreciating back then with their own reserve when the state forcefully appreciated USD to Japan and US failed to defend? Okay. China's a different story. Since the beginning of time, everybody's been trying to get into China and invest in China, right? Always, go back to the Opium Wars. Even when Hong Kong kind of became part of China, and everyone's been trying to get to that port. China is it's a massive economy. Pardon me. And there's so many growth opportunities there, right? So the emergence of the Chinese middle class is probably one of the best investments in history. So what happens is in China right now, by the way, so America has 9 cities with over 1 million people. You know how many China has? Take a guess. No, it's higher than that. Guess again. No, higher than that. One more guess. It's about 200. About 200 cities in China have a population over 1 million people, and I can only name a handful of them, which is embarrassing. But China's economy is going to grow domestically. Okay, they're going to focus on domestic growth and not just export-oriented growth. What's happening with the United States trade policy now is kind of telling the Chinese government, you know what? Screw it. We're going to grow our economy internally and be self-sufficient. Okay, so, and there's so much low-hanging growth. Don't have as much debt, obviously, than other countries do, and it's so what happens in China. And I met with the CEO of United Technologies years ago. And United Technologies, ticker UTX, is a company that owns the Otis elevator brand. And at that point, the CEO told me that, Chris, in the next 5 years, more buildings are going to be built in China than the cumulative total of all buildings since the beginning of time. Also told me this: every year in China, every year, even today, every year, a new electricity grid infrastructure is created that's bigger than the United Kingdom's electricity grid infrastructure. Okay, and so when somebody moves into the middle class in China, they usually move to the cities a lot of the time, right? They move from the farms to cities, and the first thing they do is this: they buy more beef and pork products, and then they buy an appliance. Okay, and so I used to invest in fertilizer products, crops and grow crops and fertilizers. And I used to invest in companies that would benefit from you buying more, from Chinese consumers buying more appliances. Okay, so there's tremendous growth opportunities in China. And I read this wonderful book, and you know that I'm more of a glass half full guy, right? And I'm a little bit naively too positive sometimes, but it's just who I am. But there's a great book called A Bull in China. Read it. A Bull in China. It's economy. The bottom line is no. I don't think that China and Japan are similar when it comes to the economic outlook. Okay, great question. And by the way, I've started buying more products from Chinese companies. One of my favorite brands now is DJI, which is the world's #1 drone maker and gimbal maker as well. When I do my vlogs, I vlog with a gimbal made by DJI. It's an amazing Chinese company. And when people want to buy a drone, it's not what kind of drone they're going to buy. DJI's drones are you going to buy, right? So it's anyway, it's an amazing company, and I think we're going to see a lot more innovation coming out of China soon. You know, there hasn't been as much as people has thought, because even though they have 10 times more PhDs than America does, it's happening. It's starting now. It's exciting. It's exciting. Okay, great. All right, next question I've got, and please enter your questions here. When I don't see any more, then I'll stop the webcast. Thank you. Enter them now. And if you haven't asked a question yet, please just enter them here. I promise you I'll answer your question and all your questions. Just all right, next to your students, and I appreciate your teachings. Thank you. Do you like trading options, and do you teach any options classes? Okay, that's a great question. So my investment philosophy is I'm longer term focused. Okay, and I think the best investors on the planet are longer term focused. And it's controversial, and people get upset with me sometimes when I say this, but day trading is not, and I know that's not what you're implying here, but day trading is not a sustainable long-term career. Why? Because I don't know any day traders that are, made a fortune and are still in business. When you're quite often, when a stock goes up in a given month, a month has 20 trading days. When a stock goes up or down, it's because of external factors in a short amount of time. Like rumors of trade wars, certain stocks go down, right? Bull market's going up a lot, stocks go up, whatever it might be. Okay, so if you're longer term focused, you'll do exceptionally well. Shy away from options. So I mention options briefly in my complete financial analyst course, but I don't have a course on that topic. For those familiar with a way to buy a certain financial instrument, that if the underlying stock for that instrument goes up a lot, this will go up a lot more, and vice versa when you're betting against a stock. These are called calls. These are called puts. Okay, great. Is it possible to calculate an intrinsic value of a cryptocurrency? Yeah, that's a great question. So in my complete cryptocurrency course, I have a 49-step research framework I created, which is here. And when I come up with a target price on a cryptocurrency, it's really, really hard. And the only way to do it, because there's no earnings with a cryptocurrency, the only way to do it is this: calculate the size of the total addressable market for cryptocurrencies in the long run, and then come up with what percent of that market you think an underlying cryptocurrency will have in the long run, and then discount that back, kind of like you do with discounted cash flow analysis. Check it out in the course. And if you have follow-up questions on that, please let me know. But it's really hard. When you're creating financial models to kind of come up with what you think the appropriate target price should be on a stock, it's hard. And the more independent variables there are, the more wrong you're going to be. And I'll give you an example. If I tell you that x plus 1 equals 3, what is x? Of course, it's 2. If I tell you x plus q plus w plus 4 plus q equals 9, what's x? Exactly. There's too many independent variables. So that's how you think about valuation in general, but it's market share longer term. And you have to take a macro view on cryptos if you do that as well. Okay, great question though. Thank you. And that was probably the hardest part of the course was with me coming up with that philosophy. And yeah, people can poke holes in it for sure. Okay. And that's when you're investing, you're basically, you have a crystal ball and you're predicting the future. It's the best way to start when you're thinking about investing in any kind of company, okay, or any investment is this. Ask yourself one question. Will this company be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? I have to say that again. In 5 years, will this company be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And that will stop you from buying Yahoo a number of years ago, or my beloved Research Emotion in Canada. They still make Blackberries, that sort of thing. And when technology companies go into secular decline, meaning they become just a little bit less relevant, when they become just a little bit less relevant, there's no, okay, in almost all situations. Okay, once a tech company becomes a little bit less relevant, it's a slippery slope, right? And they'll have head fakes every now and then, and people will buy because it looks cheap, but it's a sucker investment. Turnarounds do not work in technology in most cases. Of course, there are exceptions if the founder comes back in companies that rhyme with Rapple. Okay. All right, let me move on now. Adam has got a great question here. Hey, Adam, would you ever consider making a commodity trading or investment course? So trade in my complete personal finance course, I cover commodities in a lot of detail towards the end of the course when we create a diversified portfolio. And the same thing with my complete financial analyst course. No, I would not focus on trading. And if you're curious on I can teach you everything you need to know about technical analysis in less than 20 minutes. Just and don't buy my courses for this. Just go to my vlog and just look through. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago I did one on technical analysis, explain based on hedge funds. And I always believe in looking at fundamentals first, valuation second, and technicals third. And I only look at technicals because it helps me decide when to get into a stock or maybe take a little bit of profit if it's gone up too much in a short amount of time and it's overbought, which is called the RSI. Check out that vlog if you want. Okay, great, thanks. So no, I wouldn't make that course because it's already free in my vlog. Okay. Okay, wow, how yield? Okay, so they don't have negative interest rates, right? But some bonds have 0% interest rates in some countries, like Israeli bonds. Some of them were, if you're patriotic and you're from Israel and you want to help the economy, you buy 0% bonds, right? And a lot of people will do that, right? In different countries. But when it comes to negative yields, a yield can be negative. The real rate of return. I'll give you an example, okay? If this goes up 100% in value every single day, right, then my money is worthless. It's worthless, right? If inflation is way higher than the increase in interest rates, then your real return is negative, your real return, okay? All right, thanks. All right, next question I've got here is, okay, from Reed. Hey, Reed. So wrong when the cost is way too expensive with no guarantee, whatsoever. I hear you. I completely agree. I think that, and this is so controversial. I know I'm going to upset a lot of people when I give my speech next week. I think university is too long. I did a 4-year undergraduate degree in Montreal, and I had 13 hours a week, and I didn't learn that much, but I had a lot of fun because of whatever. I think university can cut in half, and I think that only go to university if you definitely need that degree to get a job. So if you want to be a doctor, of course you have to go to medical school. If you want to be a lawyer, God forbid, you go to law school, that sort of thing. So I think that 13 hours of class a week for 4 years with a ridiculous amount of debt, is that worth it? I don't think so. Unless you're working your dreams. And if you want to go back to business school, get an MBA, only do it if you want to change careers. And you can't do that by networking. Okay. And so I think that education is way too expensive. It's outdated. I mean, the most important things in education, we actually don't even learn. So when I graduate, this is embarrassing, but here I go. When I graduated from undergrad and then MBA school in finance, I had, help me with this. They didn't teach me that in school. They didn't teach me how to manage my own money. They taught me how to manage other people's money. They didn't teach me how to get a job, how to interview. They didn't teach me how to write a resume. They didn't teach me how to sell something. They didn't teach me how to present. Everything I just mentioned are core fundamental skills we need to survive and be successful and to get jobs and thrive. And they're not taught in school. School is outdated. I have a graph. I'm sure some economists do. I've not. I've never used calculus. Mind you, I'm not an engineer. A lot of stuff that they teach in school is just not applicable, and education is broken. And I am so excited about what we're doing right here in online education, because it's the future and everybody can get access all over the world for next to nothing. Udemy courses, they go on sale. They're like, just under $10. That's a steal. That's a steal for a course that will teach you everything about a certain topic. You want to know how to program, take courses, on Udemy. You want to learn data science and how to make money as a data scientist, take one of Kirill's courses. He's the best-selling business teacher on Udemy, right? And so I think that education is really broken, and the best way to fix it is by supplementing it with online. Okay. All right. All right, Reed. Oh, here you go, Reed. Okay, you did follow-up, Sarah. Yeah, you took a lot of classes. You're wasting your time. Do it again. I probably would have taken a couple more electives like art history and stuff, because I don't know, it's kind of interesting, whatever. But then again, I can take that stuff online. What I'm doing now, by the way, is I'm trying to make my video quality better, my vlogs. And so I'm taking a class it's called Masterclass online from Ken Burns, who is my favorite documentary film guy. I'm also taking a course by Ron Howard. And then anyway, you could learn many things. You want to learn from Seth Curry? You can go to Masterclass. Anyway, a little off topic there. I love learning though; it's fun. Okay. And by the way, don't ever do anything or study anything that you're not interested in, you're not passionate about, because you won't be good at it. Okay. And when I was a kid, I'll never forget, they thought I had a learning disability, and they wanted to fail me in the 6th grade and in the 8th grade. And it hurt my confidence, and I didn't like public speaking because of that for a while. And then my parents and the teachers took me to a learning disability center in Oakville, Ontario, called Chisholm. It still didn't work. My grades were awful. And finally, my dad bought me something that changed my life. He bought a Mac, or as a Mac Plus. I still have it. Changed my life because I was passionate about that. Okay, off topic. I've lost a couple people there, I can see. Let me just talk about the next question. Any good business or a personal development book recommendations? Sure, yeah. So I've got a couple. So one of them is Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie in the 30s wrote Friends and Influence People. And without that book, he was a pioneer. All these other great motivational speakers and authors wouldn't exist. And he basically tells you how to deal with people anyway, get stuff done, right? And, he basically coined the term relationships are more important than product knowledge. Like, when you get a raise or a promotion at your company, you have to ask for it, right? You can't just keep your head down and do a good job. And that book can help you get a higher EQ, actually. Okay. So that book, another book is it's The Winner's Dream, and it's by the co-CEO or the CEO of SAP, Bill McDermott. Great guy, hell of a salesman. He's amazing. And if you're going to do that one, just do the audio book, audible.com. because when Bill talks and he narrates himself, he oozes passion. This guy's amazing. He's incredible. There's that one. Another one is, let me think. I can't think of any now off the top of this. But Tony Robbins is good too, right? Unleash the giant within. I went to Tony Robbins' conference a couple of years ago, and oh my God, it changed my life. It's amazing. It was a 4-day conference. He made us walk on fire. There's 10,000 people there in LA. It was nutty. It was crazy. It's crazy, but it really changed my life. And if it weren't for me attending that conference, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now with you. Okay. And I can talk more about the Tony Robbins course if you want. It's a little pricey, but it's a good, I promise you, it's better than any degree you'll ever get. Okay. And by the way, Warren Buffett doesn't have his Columbia degree on his wall. On his wall, he has a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. And that changed his life. And without it, we wouldn't know who Buffett is. So anyway, I took that course as well, the Dale Carnegie course on public speaking. And if you're scared of something in life, okay, if you're scared of accounting or you're in a business and you're scared of public speaking, I want you to run to that fear. And I swear to you, I promise you, you will turn that enjoyment of speaking. Okay. All right. Next question is from Carl. Hey, Carl. What's your workout regimen to optimize mental performance? Okay. So what I do, and I actually, I vlogged on this a couple days ago on how to get a natural high. And when I exercise, I get the same feeling that alcoholics probably get or drug users probably get. It's a natural high, right? Because all exercising does is it creates, makes you happier. Okay. And every day at 4 p.m., and I exercise every day at 4, never first thing in the morning. Because if you get older like I am, a lot of people die on the golf course because they play early in the morning. But what I do is every day at 4 o'clock, I'll take my elliptical trainer. I'll take my iPad on the elliptical trainer, okay, and then I'll read on it, and I'll inhale that stuff. I'll be able to get through a lot of materials. A lot of the questions from I do on and I actually have help with that too from Wrigley. Thank you, Wrigley. So that's what I do. And if you want to know how I work out, just watch that vlog from a couple days ago. Okay, on getting into your natural high zone. And so I usually, what I do is one day I'll work half muscle groups, the other day the other half. Okay, so and I'm not big at all. I used to be a lot bigger, and I used to consume a lot more protein shakes and stuff. I was actually 20 pounds heavier with muscle, and I had a complete six pack. I don't need more. I don't care. But day one I would do I do chest and triceps and legs. Day 2 I would do abs and biceps and back, including trapezius and the traps here. And a lot of vloggers, all they'll do is they'll just work here because that's all you see, right? So anyway, I don't do that. But the most important thing about exercising, if you want to put on muscle, and I feel weird giving advice on this because I don't have very much anymore. But if you want to put on muscle, the best thing to do is working out. There's a window of opportunity, and you need to consume protein in that 30 minutes. Otherwise, that workout is not going to be optimized. Okay, and you can get protein through protein shakes. Whey protein, WHEY is what they call it. Okay, and intermittent fasting. I don't fast. What I do is first thing in the morning, I'll have my bulletproof coffee, which I've talked about before, which is basically coffee for years, and it helped them to think a lot better, right? Like that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper. That's how I feel when I have this, right? I can't stop creating. I love it. It's fun. Then I'll sip on this, which I explained a couple days ago in my blog how to make this. It's greatest hits of all antioxidants. With the intention of, number 1, helping you live longer. Number 2, giving you more energy. Number 3, helping you not get sick as often. And I'll just sip on this slowly and this can last me between 5 and 8 hours. And the reason why I love chefs, right? There's that fat because they're around food. But the reason why a lot of chefs, and I did a vlog the other day on chefs as well, and I analyzed the movie Ratatouille if you want, whatever. It's kind of fun. But the reason why a lot of chefs are not overweight is because they're chopping all day, and they take little samples here of food as they're cooking, and they're small meals. And if you have more meals, like I used to eat like 5 or 6 times a day when I was trying to put on weight, whatever. But if you have smaller meals through the day and only consume food when you're hungry, you'll be in better shape longer term. You'll have more energy as well. And the good thing about kale, and so the biggest component of this drink is kale. A cup of kale, which is basically this much here, a cup of kale has 3.5 grams of protein. And kale actually is a superfood. I call it a superfood that makes you feel like you're not hungry anymore. Okay. So anyway, all right. Next up, I've got, I don't know what, and I don't fast. I haven't tried it. Although I used to when I was younger, before we went to church, my parents we went. That's whatever, nor here nor there. And I don't know what HIIT is. Sorry. So if you want, ask a follow up on that, and I'd be happy to give you my humble thoughts. Thank you. But I really have to meditate more. Okay. As a student, again, if you have questions, please ask them here in the field, the message field. And when I see no more questions, I'll wrap up the call. Thank you. Okay, so as a student from Germany, how would you invest? Retirement accounts are not available for you. Really? Are you sure about that? Wow, I'm surprised at that. I would have thought that they'd be available. Okay, so okay, if you work at a big company, right? Like I used to go to Frankfurt every year. I go to Waldorf to meet with the management of SAP. And big companies like that, I guarantee you, if you work for SAP or a big software company, by the way, or another big German company, they have retirement programs, right, to help you, okay, because they want to retain their employees. So whatever company you're in, whatever company you work at, if it's a big company, I want you to talk to human resources or your boss and ask them, are there retirement savings programs that the company offers to help me save money? Okay. And most of them have it, not only because they want to help, but because they get a tax break as well, right? And it's good PR for them, whatever. But in terms of investing longer term, just take my complete personal finance course, because I teach you how to create a diversified portfolio. And in the settings section in that course, you can see from to euros, and it actually uses every currency on the planet there. And the second you select Germany, you scroll down and you'll see links to your government retirement savings program and the 5 biggest banks in Germany and filing taxes in Germany. And it's done for every country. So check that out, because that will really help a lot in terms of creating a diversified portfolio. Thank you. All right. Next question I've got is, hi, Chris, what do you think of ovens? I'd says, if you can provide more detail, I'll take a look for you. Thanks. Okay. Okay. Follow up from Robin about getting the equity investor in your startup. Okay. And you're saying that he doesn't want to invest in my company, but offers his skills and network for part of the company. I don't know. He doesn't want to get paid, but is interested in getting a little share for his services. Oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. That's a tough call, because what happens here in Silicon Valley is a lot of startups can't afford to hire lawyers, and that's understandable. And they can't afford a lot of things. So what they do is they create warrants, which basically means a stock option that will pay your service provider. A lot of service providers do it. So a lot of times lawyers will, like there's a great firm here called Wilson Sonsini, which I've dealt with a lot. They'll actually invest in your company as well. That's a tough call. I would do a trial basis first and see if he is able to get you customers. Okay. And then ask him, have you done this before, and for what companies, right? Or what other companies? That sort of thing. So I've never heard of that per se. So I'd be a little bit careful with that. And do your background research on that person, obviously. Okay. Next question. I have no idea why you do this, Chris, but big thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. I love it. It's fun for me. It's fun. Okay. Dante. Hey, Dante from Ottawa. Or are you still in Montreal? I'm not sure. Okay. Hi, Chris. I've recently attended a franchise event, and I realized that top franchisers require at least $100,000. Can you recommend some brands with lower investment and a good reputation? That's a tough one. I don't really know of any. I looked into Subway years ago. So Subway, I think, is now the largest franchised company on the planet. Good subs as well. I love their salads. Salads are good. Bread is bad. It's a complex carb. But with Subway, 15,000 much higher now. The reason I decided not to do it, and you got to be careful, is because if your franchise is doing really, really well, then what will happen is Subway or your franchise will open other stores within a couple kilometers. Okay, you got to read the fine print as well. And if it doesn't do well, you don't make money. So you're screwed either way, right? It all depends. All depends. So, and also look into it as a real estate investment. So I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Founder, I think it's called, which is about the founder. But part of McDonald's success has been real estate, which they own the property. And I think real estate's always a great investment. Just make sure you're very long-term focused with it. Like my grandfather used to say, buy land because they're not making it anymore. Thanks. Okay, next question. Again, if you have questions, please type it here. Okay. Okay. Hi, Chris. What do you think the impact of trade war will impact on China and the US in the long term? And do you think China will become more like Russia? So what happened with China? China is still a communist country, right? And some people say Chinese communists are the best capitalists in the world, right? There's great business ethics there as well. Okay, so China, and I've done a lot of business in China. I visited there invested in a lot of companies there. China is slowly moving from communism to capitalism. And if you do it slowly, I think you can do it successfully. If you do it too quickly, what can happen in certain places is that you could have more corruption and it might not work out as well. And so I think that slowly moving to capitalism, which is what they're doing with their long-term plan, is working and will continue to work. With Russia, they went right away. So comparing Russia to China, in my humble opinion, is not really fair. But I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to business school with a guy from China, and he worked for a consulting group, and they paid him. I said, this is in 1999. I asked him, I was like, hey, did you guys study America in school? And he said, yeah. I was like, really? You study American history? What was it like? And he said that, well, on the first day of studying American history in China, the teacher started that course by talking about the Great Depression. It's interesting, eh? It's interesting. So, there are pros and cons to both. Obviously, I'm a big time capitalist. I believe in democracy, freedom of the individual, that sort of thing moving, right? Otherwise, corruption could occur, or more corruption for that matter. And so, I don't think China's going to become more like like, pardon me, Russia in the long term. The floodgates are open to chase capitalism. And anyway, it's the Chinese economy will be bigger than the U.S. economy by the year 2040. It's going to be big. It's going to be big, huge. All right. So, and you also asked here, what do you think the impact of the trade war will have on China and the U.S. in the long term? I really hope it's all just posturing and bluffing. All right, let's see. Next question here is another one from Haroun. Haroun, ask more questions. I love your questions, man. One last question. Will you be uploading? Hold on a second. I'm trying to read here. Sorry. Will you be uploading the talk on education you'll be giving in Brazil in coming days? The answer is oh yeah, absolutely. I'm working on it right now, actually. it's I want to show it to you. I'll show you a little piece of it. I'm trying to do something that's never been done before with a presentation. And I'm always a risk taker. Like I always take risks in business in my life, and I try to push the envelope, whatever. But I want to show you. Oh, by the way, my vlog last night, I went through all of the different 17 positive things in the world, like Congo is now Ebola free, etc. All right, but I'm opening this up because I want to show you what the presentation is going to look like. Here it is here. Okay, so whoops, here we go. So, and let me crank up the music. So I'm leading it. Let me hold on a second here. I'm gonna have music as well, and I'm gonna have it actually focus. I'm trying to make it Brazil focused as well. Okay, so here's the future of education, right? And I'm trying to have fun with it as well. That's a quote from Malala, of course, and you can't hear this, but there's a lot of music in the background, and I'm trying to talk about three things in this course, this thing: problems, solutions, which you might not be able to see there that well, in the future. Okay, I'm talking about the problems of education. There's music in the background. I'm actually not going to do it. You can kind of hear the music a bit there. Hear that? That's from the movie Interstellar. I'm trying to do it so that it's choreographed. Here, it's hard to see. Sorry, it's choreographed beautifully with music, and it's not a PowerPoint presentation. It's just a movie, and I'm going to talk and walk through it the whole time, right? And so I talk about education. A lot of stuff you learn is not applicable, and I'm using cars as a theme and the road as a theme. Here I say it's out of date, and the music won't be that loud through it, but I'm trying to do something just really completely different. Sorry, my iPad's not clean enough. I'm saying how most people don't have access, and I'm choreographing the music to the extent that when I walk around the stage, I'll know exactly what to say and when based on what note I hear, right? And I'm writing here, you can't see in the corner there, but I'm saying that it's just too long. Education, just the degrees are too long, like I talked about before. And then once you reach a peak or a crescendo in this song, which is called Cornfields, then I pick a topic, okay? And I write here, teachers aren't making enough money, and they should be. And then what I do is I pivot from there to talk about education. You see that light goes on there? You can't see, but there's a license plate that says broken, and then fix it. Then I transition to solutions as they open the car trunk, right? Fixing a car, using that analogy. And so I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm using Google Earth as well to drill down and drill in on something very special that's close to Sao Paulo, where I'll be presenting. And I talk about Amazon Web Services and anyway, all that stuff. I'll stop boring you with the details now. I love that soundtrack, man. The soundtrack for Interstellar, it just gets me in this incredible zone, and just the sonic architecture and gorgeous nature of that soundtrack just puts me on another level. Just, I don't know, makes me happy. Wow, that was long. Sorry. But yes, I will be putting that presentation online. I'm still working on it now. I ordered special clothes for it, special shirt with branding on it, and I'm going to unzip my shirt at a certain time in the presentation. It's going to be choreographed. It's going to be out there. It's going to be different. And I'm using a lot of the stuff that I taught in my complete presentation course on which was too long as well, on how to give that presentation. So it's a risk. I'm taking a risk. Okay. All right, great. So, okay. Thank you, Haroun, for asking that question. Okay. So, which stands for high intensity interval training. Oh, interesting. I believe in intervals, which I show in my vlog from a couple days ago. But high intensity, it depends on your age. Like talk to a doctor first. And I hate to say, be the American, talk to a lawyer first guy, but it's true. Because if you push yourself too hard, you get a heart attack. It doesn't matter your age. And I know people are going to say, Chris, you're crazy, whatever. But heart rate when you exercise should be around between 130 and 140. Again, talk to a doctor, whatever. And when I do the elliptical training, I do that. I keep my heart rate always between 130 and 140. Anyway, I just think that's better for you, because I think if you push yourself too hard, I can get sick. You can get sick. So anyway, but obviously exercise is a good thing, but in moderation. Okay. Next question I've got is, if I have a dual residency, can I have a retirement account in each country? Oh, okay. I'll explain exactly how that works. All right. So because I do have in 2 countries, I have a retirement account set up in Canada where I contributed from the age of 22 when I first started. From the age of 22 when I first started working at Accenture back in 94, up until 1998 when I left to go to the States. Okay, so those 4 years, that money is still sitting in that savings account in Canada. It's called an RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Program. However, because I live in the States and work in the States, I cannot contribute anymore to that retirement program in Canada. But living in the States, I can, of course, contribute to our retirement savings program here, which is called the 401k. Okay, so talk to a tax attorney and a lawyer first. And by the way, I mention lawyer every now and then, and tax attorney too. And yeah, it can be a couple $100 per hour, but that 1 hour can save you a fortune in the long run. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's always worth paying up for good tax. Okay. All right. Next question from Dante. What's my opinion on multi-level marketing financial groups? I feel like they tend to overpromise things, but the people who work for them are good salespeople. Should I join an MLM company? I don't know. I don't know what that means. Give me an example of a big company brand name, and I might be able to help with that here. But the best way to tell if you should join any company is if it makes sense with your long-term goals in life. Okay, so if you want to start your own company, where you want to start that company, and also look at people that worked at that company, worked past tense. Look at it on LinkedIn. Where do they work after that to help them get to the next job? And meet with them as well. And just ask them, why'd you leave or whatever, that sort of thing. So but just please let me know, just give I apologize for my ignorance, but just please let me know what MLM is, or just give me an example of a big company in that area. Another hot day. Okay. All right, Adam, let's got another question. Okay. How much sophisticated hedge funds operate? What do you think about how they are investing, considering the current debt levels in Western economies here in Canada, with large consumer debt? So I don't think a large amount of debt impacts hedge funds at all, unless most of their investors are in a lot of debt and would like to redeem their investment from that hedge fund, or unless that hedging in debt instruments. Okay, but if you're investing in a hedge fund that just invests in plain vanilla equities, stocks, and commodities, then I don't think that's an issue at all. And it kills me because I was supposed to give a keynote at a very large conference in Calgary, 5,000 person conference in November. It just got canceled. It got pushed out till next year, and I don't know why, but I know that the economy, and I know you mentioned Western Canada, like Vancouver, I get it, but in Calgary, it's rough there. Just the fact that oil, it's really sad. Okay, but they're rescheduling for next year. It's good. Okay. All right, another follow-up from Adam. We see other economies wanting to move away from the dollar. What do you think is the longer-term outlook, considering these issues and new tech like artificial intelligence to take over everyone seems to be suggesting? So I think the media is overdoing it. Like I think that the implications of artificial intelligence are going to be positive longer term. Okay, if you think about it, technology is really happening now. When I was a kid and I used to go to the library and I had to use microfiche and I had to put 25 cents in just to get a printout of some old newspaper. My kids, they don't know what that means. Have you walked into a library recently, man? It's so cool. There's DVDs everywhere, computers everywhere. It's completely different. Technology has really helped. And, people worry about, child abduction, all that stuff. And I'm less worried about that now than I used to be, because I can track where my kids are, right? That sort of thing. So you kind of know where they are. You know what I mean? There's positives technology is in Kansas now, and soon it will be in other neighborhoods around the world. And with ridiculously high-speed internet access, that's a good thing. I mean, technology is a good thing. I'm not a Luddite. I think tech is a good thing for the global economy. Artificial intelligence-based tech will help us as well. And let's not forget, and I'm talking to myself, not you, but that the best artificial intelligence firm in the world, the biggest investor in it is a guy named Peter Thiel. He also invested in Facebook and started PayPal. But this artificial intelligence company is called, and Palantir is now the largest employer in Palo Alto, bigger than Facebook or anybody. And most people don't know it. Palantir is an artificial intelligence-based software company that has done great things. And I'll give you an example. The only reason the US government and the Obama administration were able to find Osama bin Laden is because they used Palantir software, which looked at little patterns and found out where Osama was hiding in Pakistan. And Palantir software also helps banks deal and also with security issues as well. Obviously not doing a good enough job. And Palantir's AI software also helps countries deal with big problems like human trafficking. So AI is a good thing in my humble opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm super bullish in the future. See my vlog from last night where I talked about 17 things, actually, not 16, 17 things that are really positive about the world right now. Everyone's talking about the end of the world. Excited. I mean, aren't you living better than your parents did or your grandparents did? Aren't you living longer? Yes. Things are good, man. Things are good. There are fewer diseases out there, right? Diseases are being cured. Cancer will be cured in our lifetime. We're living longer. Infant mortality rates are down more than 50% since 1950. The average age globally of people's lifespan is up 26 years since 1950. Things are good. Things are good. The number of people living in extreme poverty, and they're only going to get better. And technology is going to help pave the way to a brighter future. I mean, look at this. This is free education online, and you're all over the world, and I'm where I am now. Sometimes I'm not in America when I'm doing my webcast with you. It doesn't matter. It's virtual. Education is now accessible to everybody. I'm really bullish about the future, and I think AI will have more positive implications than negative, right? But if you're really worried about probably the smartest guy on the planet when it comes to critical, Bill Joy. Bill Joy is a brilliant man. He lives here close by. He actually he went to Berkeley, and then he started, along with his buddies, a great company called Sun Microsystem, which was bought by Oracle. But Bill Joy wrote this groundbreaking cover story in Wired magazine in the year 2000, the summer of 2000. I was on my honeymoon then. I remember I read it cover to cover. It's amazing. And he talked about the problems with artificial intelligence and how if we give computers too much autonomy, one day they could, send nuclear missiles. Control that. Yeah, there's things we got to be careful of. And I know a lot about this topic because this is really embarrassing. Okay, I went to court, so I turned right on a red light. Okay, here in if you live in California on 101 in Millbrae. Okay, I turned right on a red light, and there a photo was taken of me at night, and I actually got a $400 ticket because you weren't allowed to turn right on a red light. I thought, this is BS, and I fought it just for fun, whatever. It was years else. So I skipped work to go to court. I don't care. And then what I did was I argued it with the judge. I did research, and I tried to call Bill Joy for his help, and he doesn't know me from anyone, whatever. He wouldn't return my call. I called my congressperson, Jackie Spear, as well, and I went to court. And by the way, if you ever get a speeding ticket or any kind of ticket, go to court. It's free to go to court and just really politely argue it, and they'll cut that ticket usually down 30, 40, or 50% for no reason. I've done it a couple times. I said, technology is taking over. I mean, it's not fair that you have all these cameras taking pictures. Isn't that taking away jobs from police officers longer term? Is this the right thing to do? And I lost big time, but I think the judge had a good laugh at my expense because she said actually it creates more jobs, right? More programmers, and off-duty police officers actually sit down and watch those tapes of people, going through a red light. And the reason they watch is because they have to match a picture of you with on license. And so now what I do now is when I go through red lights, which is never, when I go through yellow lights or amber lights, they call it, I always put the visor down. Okay. I can still see, but I always go through it that way. And I see the flashes go off and I never get tickets because I learned they have to match you. They have to match the picture of you to your license. Anyway, that was kind of a long. And here's my license, by the way. And bonus points to the first person that gets this right. Here's my license. What movie is that from? I paused and smiled because I'm going to use that as the image for this week's vlog. What movie is that from? Okay. And by the way, I carry this around with me. I had to take my son to the hospital years ago, whatever. He's fine. And they'd always ask for ID. And when I give this ID out, and I still do it now for fun with my kids, whatever. God, I'm a bad parent. But when I show this ID, when people ask me for ID, and I do not take it to the airport, obviously, but in other places, people have two reactions. One, because they know what it's from, and they forget to ask for my real ID after they laugh, right? A lot of the time. Or number two, they look at it and they go, okay, that's good. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so hi, I'm 7. Okay. All right. And I will scroll down to see if anybody got that answer right to what movie that's from. Okay. And if you haven't seen that movie, you got to see it. It's great. It's a classic. It's super good. Okay, next question is all right, Dante. And in terms of investing in real estate, would you invest in emerging markets or developed markets? Wow. How do I analyze real estate growth potential? Do you invest in REIT? I think you meant so, right? REITs as well. So REITs, REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. And basically, a real estate investment trust is kind of like buying an ETF or a mutual fund. And in that portfolio is a bunch of real estate investments. And so that 90% of the net income or profits from the real estate in that portfolio has to be paid out as a dividend. And so the dividend yield can be really high. And so when I invest in real estate, I mean, I own, my house, whatever, it's always got to be your biggest, your biggest investment, and push yourself to buy a house slightly more expensive than you think you can afford, but not too much more expensive. Anyway, off topic. But no, I've bought REITs before. I think they're great investments. I don't buy second homes. I think that investing in or vacation homes is risky because those are the first ones to get sold when the economy goes belly up or we go into recession. So I'm a little bit careful with that, but I do, yeah, I have invested in REITs. And the beautiful thing about REITs, and Dante, it's in my complete personal finance course, which I think we talked about in the portfolio management section in part 3 of that course. I talk about how to create a diversified portfolio that has stocks, bonds, commodities, as well as REITs. And my humble way, I should say, is to invest through REITs instead of buying land itself, because sometimes you could be stuck with it, and transaction fees are high, 7% at times to buy or sell land. I just like REITs because they're liquid. You can get in and out if you want to. Yeah. And the way I would value is always based on the value of property around it and most recent sales. So the value of any financial instruments, anything, is based on obviously what consumers are willing to pay for it. And so what consumers are willing to pay for a piece of property in houses or land around the perimeter, meaning next door to that piece of land. That's just how it works. The market sets the price. Okay. And if you're going to buy that as a rental unit, and one thing, if you can figure this out, this is awesome. I just don't have the time for this, but I have a lot of friends that have bought condos in downtown Toronto, where there's too many condos, by the way. And the mortgage is more than covered by the rent. If you can figure that out, that's great. And you could do a discounted cash flow analysis of the future earnings property, discounted today's terms by using DCF, which I know, Dante, you know all about that, based on that phone call we had. That's how I'd value it. Great. All right, next question. And Dante, if you didn't mean REITs. If you meant REITs, let me know because I don't know what REITs are. Thanks. Okay. All right. Hold on a second. I'm kind of hungry now. My stomach's grumbling. Put jalapenos in there too. It's nice and spicy. Good kick. All right. Next question. Hi, Chris. Thanks for your time. Thank you for your time too. Thank you for your time and insightful knowledge. What's your take on stock options being provided for early stage employees by startups? I think it's a necessity. You have to do it. You have to do it because startups don't really have much money to pay employees. And so the way that they pay them is by giving them partial ownership of the company through stock options. You got to do it. Every startup has to do this. If you're planning on having an exit plan, which is taking your company public one day, you have to do it. You have to do it. And most people that are wealthy in the San Francisco Bay Area, for example, it's not from their base salary, right? And it's roll the dice. It's tough, man. For every, I remember when Google went public, there's 4,000 new millionaires were created overnight here in the Bay Area in 2004. When Twitter went public, 1,500 new millionaires were created in 2011, 12, I can't, whatever year it was, right? But for every Twitter and every Google and every Facebook, there are countless thousands of companies where the options are worth nothing and they go belly up and those companies are walking dead. That sort of thing. So yes, I believe that you got to get options. And if you join a startup, Dante, you meant REITs. Thanks. I think REITs sounds cooler though. But if you're going to get a job at a startup or any company and you're given a contract, just go hire a lawyer, please, and just review it because you're getting equity, but make sure there's no stupid clauses like you can only get paid out if there's an exit, within 30 years, meaning instead of within a couple months. You did it. Super bad. Excellent. Good movie. You got to see it. It's awesome. It's awesome. They make police officers look lovable in that movie. Okay. McLovin. Okay. Kay's got a question. Chris, what do you think of IBM? And for those of you that are not familiar with IBM, IBM stands for industry's biggest mistake, or I've been moved, or I'm just kidding. And by the way, for anybody that's seen that movie, 2000, Artificial Intelligence, there's a computer in that movie that was mean named HAL. Okay, in 2001 was made by Stanley Kubrick in 1969. Brilliant film, a little bit slow. But HAL was the name of the computer. And they came up with a name for HAL by looking at IBM, the letters. Add one letter to HAL, it becomes IBM. Okay, so that was a long-winded answer on IBM. My wife works there. And I'm live. Aside from that company, generally speaking, I usually don't personally invest in companies where the founder is no longer there. That's just what I do. Okay. So that's all I'll say. Right. And I get IBM's a really old company. Obviously, the founders are passed away, whatever. That's just my philosophy. I never invest in a company. And I know there's exceptions like Apple, whatever, but I never invest in a company, a tech company, when the founders no longer there. Benioff, like disastrous. If Elon Musk, left Tesla, of course, people would be freaking out. So anyway, that's I guess I can't retract that industry's biggest mistake, or itty bitty machines is another one for IBM comment. So, all right, I might be divorced by tomorrow morning. Just kidding. All right, let's see. Again, if you have any questions, please enter them here. I don't see many questions left. We've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Let's do more. Come on, let's do more. Give me more questions. Next question is this. Okay, Adam, I agree with you. AI is a good thing. But what do you think about the idea of it's replacing low-skilled workers and replacing those services-related jobs, considering that education is broken? I think it's a good thing. when technology replaces jobs, okay, and this is going to be, God, there's a movie called Gung Ho, which was about, Michael Keaton was in it, about Japanese auto companies coming to America and robotics to replace people in weekend times, I guess. I think it's a good thing when technology takes jobs away because we can retool, okay, and focus on doing something else. And by the way, prices come down a lot. Okay, that's a good thing. Inflation stays in check. So the reason the interest rates go up a lot is if the price of things go up a lot, right? So if the price of this bottle of water went up 100%, the government would raise interest rates to make the price of this bottle go down to decrease demand. Okay, and article, which is a venture capital online publication, you can search for if you want. But I wrote this article on AWS, which I'll talk about in a minute, in the Berlin Wall. And so what happened was in 1989, one of my earlier memories, I love Ronald Reagan. That guy was my hero. He gave a speech in front of the Berlin Wall and he went off script and his speechwriter is furious, but he changed the world. And you got to watch that speech. Ronald, I'm giving shivers just thinking about it. Ronald Reagan said, "Tear down this wall." And then the Berlin Wall was torn down. And what happened, and this is relevant to AI, I'll show you why in a minute, okay? What happened was, Alan Greenspan, years later, he actually came, when I worked at Citadel, big hedge fund, he came to guest lecture to myself and a gazillion other people, whatever. But he said that the reason we had such unprecedented economic growth in the 1990s was because the Berlin Wall fell. And what happened was, anytime you make a product, most important is Berlin Wall fell, you had a lot of cheap, lower priced, brilliant labor, people moving from East Europe to West. And because of that, the cost of labor actually went down. And that meant the cost of a lot of prices didn't increase fast. And that meant that the government did not have to raise interest rates that much, or as much as you would think in the 90s. That's why we had such unprecedented economic and irrational movements of some span. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because Amazon Web Services is kind of like AI. Bear with me here. But it has the same impact that the Berlin Wall does fall in. I'll explain what that means. Most large companies, I should say forward-thinking companies like Airbnb, Uber, Netflix, Dropbox, whatever. They all, for the most part, run off of Amazon Web Services. And Amazon is the company on the planet today. And people think of Amazon as being an online retailer. It's so much more. So what happened was in 2005, Jeff Bezos, the brilliant founder, of course, of Amazon, realized that he can't fulfill all the holiday shopping needs every year because he doesn't have enough computers. And that results in lost sales. And that's dangerous because retail companies are in the red, meaning they lose money all year long until November. Then they go in the black. That's why they call it Black Friday. And so what Jeff Bezos did in 2005, by the way, there's a lawnmower in my neighbor's yard. If it's too loud, just tell me to close the door and I'll close it. I will boil, but that's okay. No guilt. But what Jeff Bezos did was he basically had Amazon in 2005 create these massive buildings with massive number of servers in them. And what he did was every holiday season, he would turn them on and he'd be able to take all the additional holiday traffic. And then every January, he realized, oh my goodness, we have all this excess capacity. What do we do with this? And he started renting it out. He started renting it out to other companies like Netflix, right? Like Uber, like Airbnb, et cetera. And it's like utility computing, like it's an electric utility or something. And he kept cutting the pricing point too. Most software companies don't cut prices. He cut the pricing point every single quarter since then. Okay. So he's cut the pricing point more than 20 times since then, way more than that. Right. And so what happens is this: companies like Netflix can offer you awesome content because cost services is cheap. Companies like Uber can offer an awesome service most of the time because They run on Amazon Web Services. The cost of technology infrastructure for them is cheap. Airbnb can offer an incredible service for the same reason. A lot of online education companies can as well. And so what happened is AWS, and I'm going to talk about it as well in my speech. You might have seen that little graphic when I picked up my iPad. AWS is the Berlin teardown or fall event. Okay, and a lot of AI is going to be built on top of AWS as well. And I think everybody wins because what happens is the price of stuff goes down or doesn't increase as much, right? It's kind of like the Walmart impact years ago. So I'm incredibly bullish on the future. And you know what? Amazon, they're getting too powerful. And I love the European Union because the European Union, the political system there, keeps technology companies in check, right? It's kind of like the Senate. It's a sober second look. It keeps privacy and just make sure that there's a more competitive playing field, which is awesome. However, I think that Amazon is getting too big, too fast. And what's going to happen is in a lot of countries, a lot of governments are not going to use Amazon Web Services and a lot of companies. Okay. I'll give you an example. So I talked to the CTO of UBS as well as the CTO of CSFB, Credit Suisse First Boston, which is Credit Suisse. I can't remember. But anyway, and they will never use AWS in their country because they're worried that if Amazon gets audited by the US government or investigated, and the FBI or CIA internationally looks at the data of Amazon Web Services, they would look at the data of all the Swiss bank holders. And so what's happening is you're getting regionalism. It's kind of like the balkanization of artificial intelligence and cloud service providers, CSPs. Okay. So what's happening is the big telecom companies like Deutsche Telekom, for example, in Germany. I know we have at least one person from Germany on the call here, have their own verses. Okay. And the same thing with China Mobile, of course. Right? AWS in China, not going to happen. Okay. And every country is going to have their own. And so I think that the telecom companies are great investments longer term as well because of that. Everybody wins and competition is good for the consumer. And I think AI is a good thing. Thank you. Except if you got a speeding ticket. McLovin. Okay. All right. Let's see here. If you have any questions, please list them here. When I don't see any more questions, I will turn the podcast off. Okay. Haroun, another question. Haroun. My last name is Haroun, as you know, it rhymes with Arun. When I used to go out to dinner as a kid, I had 4 brothers and sisters, and they used to page us. They would say, heroin, party of 6, heroin, party of 6. Don't do drugs. Okay. Arun's got a question. How can you prevent the involvement of emotions in stock market investing? Thank you. That's a great question. I don't think you can tell people to be unemotional. I think the goal to be better investors is to be long-term focused. Okay. Don't be short-term focused. You know, when you start buying a stock, when it goes down a lot, that's a good thing because you can buy more at a lower price and get a full position on. And so the best thing I can tell you is, so before I invest in any company, and I teach my students this in my courses, I have them create a 1-page template, which lists your entire thesis on 1 page. Okay. And at the top is thoughts on fundamentals, like management and everything. Then that's template for free. Go to my website, harounventures.com/template. That's all lowercase. harounventures.com/template, all lowercase. And there's that 1-page framework there. And I've included not only that framework in PowerPoint format in case you want to move the boxes and lines around a bit, but I also included a sample write-up I did on a company called NetSuite, which I loved, which Oracle bought. Okay. And so by writing that 1-page framework, if there's volatility in the stock and you get people go and read it again, and say, oh, that's what I was thinking. Okay, I'm not going to be emotional anymore because of this. But when do you sell the stock? Well, if a new piece of news is just released, okay, that makes you worried about your stock, I want you to go back and get that original write-up, and you have to list risks in the write-up as well. And if that new piece of information is something brand new that wasn't available, that news, when you wrote that 1-pager, then I want you to ask yourself this question. If I had known about this new piece of information, would I have still bought the stock? And if the answer is no, then consider selling. But make sure you think longer term. And by doing that process, it'll stop you from being emotional and just be logical. Because you'll focus on the facts and not emotion. I think it was Dale Carnegie, and I have this, and Wrigley's great. He helps me out a lot with this daily Instagram feed. And he corrected me. He said, people don't follow you on Instagram. Or they don't subscribe, whatever it is. But anyway, on Instagram, we release a quote every day. It's motivational with a nice picture in the background, whatever. And Rick does a great job on it. Thank you, Wrigley. And basically what we do is, we had one from Dale Carnegie a couple of days ago. I think it was yesterday, saying that people are, you have to understand, people are creatures of emotion and not always creatures of logic. Okay. And when people are really emotional about business, it creates volatility, right? Stocks can go down or up or whatever it is. And your job as an investor, long-term investor, is to take advantage of those people being overly emotional, obviously, and buy. And I hate to use this term, but it's so true, but you want to buy when there's blood in the streets, when people are panicking. Okay. Again, if this lawnmower in the background is too loud, let me know. If you have questions, please write them down here. And once there's no questions, we'll wrap this up. But I'm ready to stay here forever. It's good. A little piece of ginger there. Okay. Yeah. How do you handle more and more questions on Udemy when you're an exponential now? Okay. And so basically, a lot of the questions that people ask have already been asked before. And so we can search through previous answers that I've written, and we can just paste that again. Right. And so when you first release a course on Udemy, it's a hell of a lot of work answering a lot of questions. I love it though, right? Because it kind of guides me down a path of, what are my students interested in, my customers longer term. But a lot of questions are just repeatable questions, right? And I've actually found that the number of questions is not increasing as quickly as enrollments, or no, because a lot of people are just searching the Q&A. Okay, and so for my entire MBA course, I've answered thousands and thousands and thousands of questions. To the extent that it's like another course within a course, right? It's a platform, right? And so a lot of people will search through the answers there. And then I also, when I make my courses now, I try to anticipate questions before I make the courses. So I'm getting better at it. So for example, in a course I released recently, the complete cryptocurrency course, that's part of it, that people were going to ask, what if I don't have Excel? So I made a little PDF link there within the Excel dashboard, and also in the links within the course as well. And so I anticipate a lot of questions. And the more courses I create, the percentage of questions relative to the number of enrolls goes down a lot, because I know what people are going to ask in most cases. So anyway, that's a great question. But I've got Wrigley working with his partner. Great guy. Great job. Okay. All right, Chris, another question from Kay. Hey, Craig. All right, Chris, what's your timetable of office hours like this? Well, I usually, I do it every Thursday, starting at 8 a.m. until there's no more questions, right? And initially I advertised 2 hours, and we went over 1 week to 3 hours. I'll talk forever as long as I'm adding value, right? Serving others, helping with my humble thoughts. And the first sort of, is because I have a lot of experience. I think that learning theory is BS and doesn't help us, but learning practical stuff from real people that have failed and succeeded. Okay, I had to throw in the fail part as well, just to be my humble Canadian self, right? Anyway, so that's it. Office hours going forever. Oh, and the great thing is this: we index this, and Wrigley does a great job of this, so that within 24 hours of this week, if you go to this webcast or any previous webcast, you can see a list of all questions asked at all times. So you can just click and go directly to that question. Okay, so which is fun. And I created in the past week, I've created 5 hours of new content, free for my students. 2 hours of vlogs, and then 3 hours from last week's webcast. So anyway, it's I think going forward, you'll see that 5 hours every week, maybe a little bit less sometimes. I don't know. And I committed to my students every year. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And when you throw down a challenge like that, when you vocalize it, you got to follow through, right? It's kind of like if you want to write a book. If you start telling your friends and family you're going to write a book, then you're going to write that book because they're always going to ask you about it. And do a search if you get a chance in YouTube on Family Guy, write a book. And there's a funny scene where the dog keeps asking this guy when you're going to write a book. Anyway. So throw down a challenge by verbalizing it. Oh, and I made a vlog on this last week if you care. Right, in a book, go to fiverr.com. That's 5 with 2 R's, FIVERR.com. And buy the cover for your book for $5. Get somebody to make the cover and then put it on the jacket in the mail when you get it on the outside of a real book and put it on your desk. And that will motivate you to get it done. Okay. I like visualizing goals. Okay. Next question is from Adam. Hey, Adam. If you had to choose and you had $100,000 to invest today, and you had to make a choice between one of each of them for the next 10 years, which one? So I never give investing advice, but I always invest in companies where the founder's still there. Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question. And always do your due diligence. Don't watch financial news programs. Don't read financial articles online. And if you go to Yahoo Finance, be careful because a lot of time those are sponsored stories. And the reason why I always love you to do your own work is because everybody is biased. I mean, I'm not with those stocks, whatever. But oh, Dave, I saw your question there. Thanks, man. I'll get to you in a second, Mr. Nitro. Everybody's biased, and when you watch somebody being interviewed on a stock, right? They're biased because maybe they own that stock or the CEO of that company. Of course, they're going to be positive, or maybe they're an investment bank that might want to do banking with that company. Everybody's biased, okay? And whenever somebody asks you to invest in their startup, yes. Why am I so lucky to be given this opportunity? Why am I so lucky to be given this opportunity? Maybe it's because nobody else would invest. I don't know. But just anyway, do your own research. All right, Dave, here we go. And if there's no more questions after this one, I'll wrap it up unless somebody wants to ask another question and type it in here. Mr. Nitro, Dave. And Dave, one day you got to tell me what Mr. Nitro means. Is that from the Fast and the Furious, Nitro? That green cool liquid they used to go fast? What are your war going on and its effects on the economy? Are they good for the U.S. in the long run? No. I don't think it's good for the U.S. in the long run. I don't think any the word war is in it for a reason, right? It's a different type of war. Nobody wins. Sometimes I think that tariffs can help if another country is being unfair with your country when it comes to trading. But look, America is attached to China. Cool stuff. They own all of our mortgages. I have a little mortgage in my house. I'm sure it's owned by Chinese debt indirectly. Nobody wins. Nobody wins. And I'm trying not to be political. Oh, you used to work at making liquid nitrogen. I love it. That's cool, dude. Nice. What does 458 mean? Okay. Answer that. I try not to be political, and I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm going to be careful what I say here, but I'll give this generic answer, okay? Whenever a politician does something, it's because they want to get reelected, usually. Usually, a lot of them have noble intentions and want to make the world a better place. But a lot of politicians in general are doing things that they think can get them reelected. And just understand everyone's motivation. And the same thing, when you go to an informational meeting with somebody, always think in their terms, how can I help you? Because people are usually motivated by a couple things. Number one, they want to make more money. Nowadays, remember, because I'm getting old. But anyway, so just understand, when you go to those informational meetings, always be willing to help people make more money or get a promotion, whatever it is, by telling them, hey, I know a lot of people that might be willing to buy your product. I can hook you up with them, that sort of thing, whatever. And so when it comes to politics in general, politicians are motivated by wanting to get reelected. And I haven't done an analysis on this, but I bet you presidents add more value to the economy and the country and the world than their first terms. Why? Because there are term limits in America. And so for those of you that aren't that familiar with the American system, political system, I'll explain it in 30 seconds fast. Okay. Hundreds of years ago, a bunch of people came over from Europe. They came to America and they created a government based on greatest hits of everything they have from Europe. Okay. They changed it. It won't be limit, which wasn't for more than 8 years. Right. In Canada, where I'm from, you can be prime minister forever. And I remember Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, and I went to school with Justin Trudeau. And I got a funny story for you. I'll tell you sometime on him. He seemed like a nice guy. But Pierre Trudeau was prime minister forever when I was a kid, right? There's no term limits. And the problem with that is you're only focused on getting reelected. And so it causes you to create all these big incentive programs for incentive programs, and then you tax the rich overly, too much, okay, to stay in power. And I love Canada. It's slightly more left wing. I get it, but then again, being a student in Canada is amazing, right? And how much debt, free healthcare is amazing. It's clean. People are polite, that sort of thing. But the one thing I like about America is term limits, and I wish that in Canada we had term limits as well. So anyway, that's kind of a long-winded answer. So I think questions, I'm looking. We've gone 2 hours and 45 minutes. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to type in a question. Oh, here we go. Good. Keep them coming, man. Let's go forever here. All right. Hi, Chris. Oh, my God. Hi, Chris. What do you think of certain politicians? I miss Ronald Reagan. That's all I'll say. Those were back. I'm sounding like an old, and I'm not Republican or Democrat. I go back and forth depending on the party, whatever. I didn't vote for any of those people. I also didn't vote Democrat in this recent election. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. But I am bullish on the world. I'm positive on the world. And if you see my vlog last night, I wrote of 16 or 17 things that makes me really, really positive and happy about the world and where the world's going if we focus on the positive. So many. Okay, any other questions? You can just type the letter A if you're going to type a question in the next couple of minutes right now. So I know not to hang up this call. But if I don't see any more questions, I'll wrap it up now. If I have not answered your question, just type it now. And I'll give you another 5 seconds or so. Okay, great. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. I want to thank you very much for your time and for your another question. Here we go. Great. Thank you, Kay. Yeah, I've been China. I got to talk about China and video games. This is so interesting. Okay. All right, good. More questions coming in. Type them up now. Okay. So I've been to China a number of times on business, and actually on my honeymoon in the summer of 2000, I'll never forget. My wife and I we went through. I paid for my whole wedding myself, and it cost me like 25 grand. I paid for it all on margin, right? Dumb, I know. I'm a risk taker. I did well in the 90s stocks, whatever. But got a margin call on my honeymoon. I was in Hong Kong in a cyber cafe. I'll never forget that. And by the way, the best chicken wings I've ever eaten in my life are from McDonald's in China. They're amazing. They're incredible. I wish they brought them to America. It's incredible. But I've been to China, not just on my honeymoon. You know, my wife and I went to Beijing to see the Great Wall as well, which is amazing. It's so interesting. If you go to China and you climb the Great Wall, you go on a walk, the shape are as you walk up the hill. Let me explain that. So people are kind of out, you know, not in shape, or some are in shape when they're walking up. And then after you walk up, I don't know, like half a mile or so, only skinnier people are there. And then once you get to the top, which I didn't get to, only really, really fit people are there. It's interesting. I love the Great Wall. It was a great experience as well. And I went back to China on business. I've been there a number of times. So when I used to manage a $1 billion software fund, and I had video games. I went to Seoul to meet with video game companies there. And Seoul has the fastest internet access on the planet. It's amazing. And I went to Japan, of course, and I met with the CFO of Nintendo. And if you're interested in my thoughts on Nintendo and why it's 128 years old, how it made this long, watch my vlog on that topic. And then I went to China, and I met with the Nine, which I think was the infrastructure company that did all the plumbing for World of Warcraft at that time. And I met with Shoud I, as well as a couple other tech companies. And I remember at that time, computer gaming was way bigger in China than it is in America. And I asked why. I said, why is it that online gaming like World of Warcraft is so huge in China? Why is it bigger in China than anywhere else? And the answer was fascinating. And the answer that the CEO of this company, I think it was Shoud I, told me was that, and there was this woman named Hannah, and she was wonderful, the CFO of the Nine, I think. Yeah. She also used to live in Vancouver. But I remember asking that, and they said the reason why computer gaming is so much bigger in China than anywhere else is because China used to have a one child per family policy. And they don't have that anymore. But what that means is this. After dinner in America or Canada, where I grew up, I have brothers and sisters. We play with each other, I guess, right? Well, in China, if there's only one child per family, then a lot of those kids, which are, you know, only childs, they'll want to socialize as well. And they just go online to socialize because they don't have brothers and sisters. I thought that was kind of interesting. So yes, I've been to China. I love it. Read that book if you get a chance. If you're bullish on China longer term in commodities. Okay, next question. Okay, please type your questions here before I wrap it up. Would you invest a huge sum now, or rather use DCA or other alternatives? I'm embarrassed. What is DCA? Let me just open up a new browser window and search that. And if you're there, type if you can, just type what DCA means, because I don't know what it means. DCA. Yeah, I don't know what DCA means, man. DCA. The airport code for Reagan, Drum Corps Association, dumb Chris ass. I'm just kidding on that one. Okay. Hi, I'm 7. I don't know what it means. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Dollar cost averaging. Okay, great. Thank you for that. The older I get, the better I was. All right. So I agree with dollar cost averaging. I think it's a great way to invest. Never buy the entire investment at one point. So if you're going to have 5% of your liquid net worth in one investment, for example, the way I would do it is this. I would throw on 50 basis points right away. Okay. No matter where the stock is, I don't care. Right. 50, by the way, that means 0.5%, 50 basis points. Okay. And that's nerd finance talk for less than 1%. Okay. So when they say, you know, they're going to raise interest rates by 25 basis points, that means 0.25%. So I would put on 50 basis points initially of that 5% position. And then I would wait. And if it gapped down big time on some event, then I'd back up the truck and then buy the rest of it. Otherwise, I would just kind of buy slowly over time when there was dips. I put in limit orders to, you know, if it's a liquid stock, to buy it on dips until I have a full position. So anyway, that's how I would do it. So yeah, I do agree with that dollar cost averaging, because I don't think it makes sense to buy the entire position right away. Okay, so any other questions? Type them now, or I'm gonna wrap this up. And I'm happy to stay here and talk forever. So type any letter right now if you're starting to type a question and need more time to write your question. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. I want to thank you all for your time. This was a lot of fun. Okay, this is my favorite session so far, and every week it keeps getting better and better. Have a wonderful week, and know that you can come back and look at this webcast again tomorrow. As if you go to the description field, you'll see that everything is. You can jump directly to questions because it'll all be indexed by then by Wrigley. Oh, Dave got a question. Mr. Nitro, does Udemy have a certification process? So whenever you finish a course in Udemy, you get a certificate of completion. And what you can do is, if you don't know where to get it from, but you finished a course, click on the green trophy icon in any course, and you can download that. And some people put it on their LinkedIn profile. Other people give it to their employer or whatever it is. But there's no official certification process yet from Udemy. I've thought about creating a degree program on Udemy with certification. Maybe one day, we'll see. I'm having too much fun doing what I'm doing right now. But hopefully that answers your question. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody that's on this call. This is the best one so far. The questions have been off the charts amazing. I really enjoy this. And I'll see you again next week at 8 a.m. my time, San Francisco time on Thursday. Thanks again.